Good afternoon and welcome to today's New York City Council public hearing on the Committees on Public Housing and Aging. At this time, we ask that you silence all cell phones and electronic devices to minimize disruptions throughout the hearing. If you have testimony you wish to submit for the record, you may do so via email at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. At any time throughout the hearing, do not approach the dais. We thank you for your cooperation. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
This meeting is coming to order. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this hearing of the Committee on Public Housing, which is being held jointly today with the Committee on Aging. I am Councilmember Alexa Aviles, the chair of the New York City Council Committee on Public Housing. I'd like to thank you all for attending this oversight hearing, examining the infrastructure of resident safety at NYCHA. We are joined by my colleagues from the Public Housing Committee, Carmen de la Rosa, Councilmember Carmen de la Rosa, Councilmember Gail Brewer, thank you for being here. Every tenant in New York City has the right to safe and secure home. Safe communities are communities where people have what they need. It does not mean a community that resembles a prison or is over-policed. Safety for tenants includes knowing that doors will lock, that they can count on their fire alarms to go off in an emergency, that the grounds are maintained, and when they have them, that cameras in their buildings are functional and being monitored. Unfortunately, NYCHA residents have become accustomed to just the opposite, with broken doors, inoperative fire safety systems, and non-working or non-existent cameras. Today, we are looking at all aspects of safety and security systems that NYCHA has direct control and responsibility over. These systems, like any physical systems on NYCHA campuses, have faced disinvestment and need billions of dollars in repair. While we at the Council will continue to push all levels of government to fully fund NYCHA and fund it properly, much of this disinvestment is compounded by poor policies, poor oversight, lack of training, plans or lack thereof, and sometimes poor or incoherent implementation. Even in light of the disinvestment, NYCHA must make focused and strategic investments, communicate those plans and outcomes, and have effective policies to ensure resident safety. Over the last 18 months, NYCHA has received reports from the New York City Comptroller, from the New York Department of Investigations, and the Federal Monitor, all detailing not just that NYCHA needs more money to keep residents safe, but also pointing to management changes and recommendations that NYCHA should take to address many of these issues. Today, I'm looking to hear from NYCHA which specific recommendations they have adopted and what changes they are making with specificity, timeframes, and locations to keep residents safe in their homes. I would like to thank my staff, Cristina Botego and Edward Cerna, along with the Public Housing Committee staff, Jose Conde, Charles Kin, Dan Krupp, Nicolas Montalbano, Christopher Zawada, and Connor Mealy for all the work they've put into this hearing. As you heard at the top of this, this is a joint hearing that will look specifically at the impacts on NYCHA seniors, seasoned or sexiest part of New York City's communities. The seniors who built this city are our greatest treasures, and we must do right by them. And with that, I now turn it over to the chair, Chair Hudson, to make her opening statement.
Thank you so much, Chair Aviles, and good afternoon, and welcome to today's joint hearing on the infrastructure of resident safety at NYCHA with a special emphasis on the safety of older NYCHA residents. I'm Councilmember Crystal Hudson, Chair of the Committee on Aging. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you to Chair Aviles and the Committee on Public Housing for holding this vitally important hearing today alongside the Committee on Aging. NYCHA serves a large number of older adult residents living in both regular developments as well as in seniors-only developments and buildings that only allow residents aged 62 years and older. As of March 2022, 23.6% of NYCHA's entire resident population, or almost 78,000 residents, are aged 62 or older. Major safety concerns exist across NYCHA's portfolio of senior buildings. There are frequent reports of delayed repairs and outdated equipment, including persistent mold, as well as broken elevators, doors and locks, smoke detectors, and fire safety components. Safety issues pose an outsized risk to NYCHA's older residents, who are more likely to be mobility impaired and to have health issues that impact their ability to respond to emergency situations. NYCHA is charged with the proper administration of seniors-only buildings and developments where older adults make up the majority of residents. However, when it comes to keeping our older adults safe, I'm concerned NYCHA is failing in its duties. 2021 data revealed that approximately 20% of violent crime in New York City occurred inside or within 100 feet of public housing developments. NYCHA's senior buildings have been directly affected by violent crime, with a notable example being Woodson Houses in Brooklyn, which saw 3 older adults murdered over a 5-year period between 2015 and 2020. This loss of life should have been a wake-up call to the city. It is high time that the city makes major investments in safety infrastructure, yet issues persist, and I fear it may only be a matter of time before something like this happens again. More recently, reports have emerged on how broken doors and locks make older NYCHA residents feel unsafe. Last year, New York One reported that Corsi Houses, a NYCHA senior building in East Harlem, had a broken front door lock that allowed unauthorized individuals to occupy the building's staircase and hallways. Other reports detail senior-only buildings with front doors that are broken for over 3 months at a time and frequently in need of repairs, littered with needles and drug paraphernalia, as well as stairwells smelling of human waste. These conditions are unacceptable, and I hope that NYCHA is doing everything it can to quickly and thoroughly address these glaring safety and quality of life concerns. All New Yorkers deserve to feel safe in their homes, including our older NYCHA residents. Decades of neglect and underinvestment in NYCHA developments have left older residents vulnerable to crime and fire emergencies. We owe it to our older adults and their families to prioritize investments in safety infrastructure and to quickly address needed repairs. I look forward to discussing how the city plans to address these issues moving forward, as well as how the council can work with older NYCHA residents to help meet their urgent needs. NYCHA residents have waited for action for far too long. Older NYCHA residents should not have to worry for their safety every time they leave their apartment. We need bold and comprehensive action at every level of government now. Thank you again to Chair Aviles, and thank you to the representatives from NYCHA and the administration for joining us today. I'd also like to thank my staff, Casey Addison and Andrew Wright, and Aging Committee staff, Christopher Pepe, Chloe Rivera, and Samuel Hamid. I'll now turn it back to Chair Aviles. Thank you.
Thank you. And in keeping with the tradition of this committee, before we hear from NYCHA, we will first hear from a panel of residents. So I will turn it over to committee counsel to call up the first witness.
Good morning. We will have a resident pre-panel. We'll call a witness on Zoom. As soon as we call your name, you'll be asked to unmute. You can begin as soon as you're unmuted. For those wishing to testify in person, please see the Sergeant at Arms in the back of the room and fill out a testimony slip. For those wishing to testify and are on Zoom, we will move to virtual testimony after the administration testimony. Julie Sharpton, we'll hear from Julie Sharpton. You should be getting a notification to unmute yourself shortly.
Good afternoon.
We can hear you, Julie. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Hudson and everyone at City Council, Department of Aging. Thank you for having us and allowing us to voice our concerns. My name is Julie Sharpton. I am the president of Whitman Houses Resident Association. We shared the concerns as our council member, and many of you do, in regard to the lack of safety mechanisms in place to keep our senior residents and resident at large safe. We have various doors at our developments that are broken. The locks don't work. They're constantly in need of repair, and which causes unfortunate people that don't live here to come in and utilize drugs in our stairwells, vandalize our mailboxes, which makes our residents, especially our senior residents, feel very unsafe. They have voiced their concerns to us in our monthly meetings repeatedly about this. they're afraid to go and empty their garbage in the compactors on their floors because of homeless people that have inhabited our stairwells, our rooftops. They're afraid to come again and just go to their appointments because they have to step over or encounter, people that don't live in our buildings, and they get that access through broken doors. Poor lighting is another issue that causes our residents, and especially seniors, not to feel safe going to and from the store. We know that it's getting darker now earlier in the evenings. At 4:30 p.m., it's pitch dark outside. That's an early time of the evening, but with it being dark out, our residents don't feel safe and comfortable, and especially again seniors, with just going to the store or even just going down to stairs in the lobby to check their mailboxes. These have been constant concerns that we have addressed to NYCHA. I won't say that NYCHA hasn't been responsive, but there needs to be some system put in place, better mechanisms, if you will, for lack of a better term, put in place so that we are not constantly dealing with the same issues repetitively when it comes to doors not locking. Perhaps key fob situations instead of a key. I don't know, but we need to just put something in place. As we speak of the roof access, I was walking with an elected official about 2 weeks ago to show them the conditions of the roof when we were met by two gentlemen that didn't live in the development, didn't belong there, that created an encampment at the rooftop where construction workers had heavy equipment that could be dangerous to anyone that doesn't know how to utilize it properly. And we couldn't continue that walkthrough and had to have them removed. So it's things like that that make our residents that live here not feel safe. So we also need our access to our roofs to be safer, to not allow people, whether they live here or not, to access those roof landings and be able to inhabit them for whatever reason for whatever they're doing up there. Unfortunately, we had a woman that was committed suicide about 2 months ago. We're told that I put my jacket over her body and waited for the ambulance to come. And because she accessed the roof and jumped from one of our rooftops that had railing over it. So maybe we need to consider alarms at our roofs that directly alert the police department or management or the fire department that somebody's accessed the roof, because we've seen way too many bodies coming off of roofs since I've been a resident since 1973. We've seen way too many bodies, at least 5, come off of the roof, whether it be murder or it be suicide. So I support the city council's efforts in this meeting and the agenda to work with NYCHA and move forward so that we can foster better safety conditions for our residents. And again, especially our seniors and children who are the most vulnerable to our communities. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that.
Thank you so much, Julie. We appreciate you being here and for your testimony.
Having no other residents to speak at this time, we'll move on to the administration testimony.
I'd like to recognize Councilmember Dinowitz, Councilmember Lee, and Councilmember Marte.
Again, if anyone is on Zoom and is interested in testifying, please go on to council.nyc.gov and email and sign up to testify at council.nyc.gov/testify, or email to testimony@council.nyc.gov. After the administration testimony, we'll move to public testimony. Would you all please raise your right hand? Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
Yes. Yes.
If you could just identify yourself and your title for the record before you start.
Eva Trimble, Chief Operating Officer.
Sean Mavani, Chief Asset and Capital Management Officer.
Lauren Gray, Senior Vice President, Quality Assurance, Safety and Technical Programs.
You can begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairs Alexa Vilas and Crystal Hudson, members of the Committees on Public Housing and Aging, other distinguished members of the City Council, NYCHA residents, community advocates, and members of the public. I am Eva Trimble, NYCHA's Chief Operating Officer. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Sean Mavani, Chief Asset and Capital Management Officer, Lauren Gray, Senior Vice President of Quality Assurance, Safety and Technical Programs, and Chief James Secreto, Vice President for Public Safety and Security, as well as our partner from the Department of Aging, Jocelyn Grodin, Associate Commissioner. The safety of residents is a fundamental part of our mission, so thank you for this opportunity to discuss our efforts to enhance safety and security at NYCHA developments. We recognize the important role of security cameras and other security enhancements like layered access controls and exterior lighting, so we are always seeking funding to increase the scale of these measures across our portfolio. Since 2014, NYCHA has expended about $600 million on cameras and other security infrastructure, funding that's generously provided by the City Council members and other elected officials, including the Manhattan District Attorney, as well as through initiatives like the Mayor's Action Plan for Neighborhood Safety. More than 18,500 CCTV cameras are currently installed at NYCHA developments across the city. They are placed strategically at building entrances, roof landings, stairwells, and other exterior and interior areas where illegal activity could occur or unauthorized entrance could gain access. When installing sidewalk sheds for public protection and other structures, we always try to have them designed to minimize blocking security cameras or creating dark, unsafe spaces. If we learn about a camera or lighting that is inadvertently becomes blocked due to sidewalk shedding or other obstruction, we immediately work to reposition the camera, lighting, or obstruction to a new location. In the past decade, NYCHA has installed nearly 10,000 exterior lights at 87 developments. We've also installed layered access controls, new entrance intercoms, key fobs, and doors at more than 400 buildings across 80 developments. Considering the massive needs across the authority, currently totaling more than $78 billion, we appreciate the funding from the City Council and other partners, which enables us to install these vital quality of life and security enhancements. To help maintain our investments in layered access controls and ensure their functionality, we issued protocols for staff on monitoring and repairing damaged doors promptly, work that is both costly and time-consuming. Our protocol is also to alert the NYPD in the event of a non-functioning door. NYCHA's Office of Safety and Security is dedicated to the safety of residents through its monitoring of safety systems and policies, as well as partnerships with experts like the NYPD. We work closely with the NYPD on many aspects of crime prevention and security enhancement, including the placement of the CCTV cameras and exterior lighting. The Office of Safety and Security is also working with property management and resident leadership to assess potential safety hazards at our properties through inspections, as well as the analysis of data and reports and resident input to develop solutions for any issues. As we strive to address the growing challenge of aging buildings that have not received the investment they've needed for decades, the safety and quality of life of our residents remain at the heart of our mission. We appreciate the support of our partners, including the NYPD and the City Council, as we work with residents to foster safe communities at NYCHA. We are especially thankful for funding from City Council members for security enhancements such as cameras, exterior lights, and layered access controls. We hope that you will continue to partner with us on these efforts, as we need funding to not only install the infrastructure, but also to maintain it. Although we commit all available resources and work with our partners to promote the safety of NYCHA communities, there is always more that can and must be done. Thank you for your support as we continue to make progress for residents. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, and I'd like to recognize, we've been joined by Councilmember Wan and Councilmember Shulman. Thank you. So to jump into the questions, who within the NYCHA management structure is in charge of the physical aspects of resident safety and security policy for NYCHA buildings?
So Most of that accountability lies with our property management structure, as those the infrastructure elements that I assume you're referring to are the basics of our buildings, the doors, the lighting, and so forth. And so that is, at its main function, a property management function to ensure that the doors are working. Our caretakers every morning do their rounds across the buildings and the grounds, and they're required to report any deficiencies in doors or any broken doors, both front entrance and rear entrance, as well as interior stair hall doors. They're supposed to report all of that to their property management supervisors by 10 a.m., and those supervisors would take appropriate action from there. And so at its base, it is a property management function. However, property management works closely with the Office of Safety and Security and other partners both within and outside of NYCHA. So if there is an incident where a caretaker comes upon a door that's severely broken, clearly vandalized, we will also flag it to the Office of Safety and Security. We will reach out to NYPD and file a police report. And if there are cameras, we will pull the cameras in order to see if there's footage of what happened to the door.
Got it. So how are safety and security policy changes filtered down through the neighborhood model?
So NYCHA works off of a series of standard protocols and standard procedures, and any types of policy. So as I mentioned, our caretakers are required to, do their grounds work and by 10 a.m. report buildings. I issued guidance reaffirming that practice back in August after we saw, over the course of the summer, many broken doors. The Office of Safety and Security also works closely with property management doing safety assessments, and that is communicated and partnered with property management. So we work, collaboratively both within NYCHA and, as I said, with our partners in NYPD.
So I recognize that. Excuse me one second. Pardon me, excuse me. In terms of you mentioned the safety assessments, are these, what do you mean by that exactly? If you could explain what that is.
Sure, I'll ask Lauren Gray to talk more about our safety and security assessments.
Thanks. So before we even set foot on the grounds of our developments, the Office of Safety and Security is looking at a whole host of information that's provided to us. So for example, we will look at Eagle reports from NYPD to see if there's been recent crimes at the developments. We look at our joint homeless initiative with both DHS and NYPD to see if there's been any issues at the development related to homeless folks at the development. We also look at security guard reports and fire safety reports. And of course, we take an overall holistic look at the development itself. That all happens before we even set foot on the ground. When we go to do an actual assessment, we invite the TA president and property management staff to come along with us. We do a full assessment of the development from roof to basement, looking at 7 critical indicators. The first one being doors, of course, roof, landings, any access points into our buildings, layered access doors versus traditional to make sure that they're functioning properly. We also look at lights, both internally and on the external grounds of the properties, as well as the roofs. Cameras to make sure they haven't been vandalized and are facing appropriately and not being blocked by scaffolding or shedding. We do radio checks with our staff from roof to basement to make sure that the radios are working properly and that everyone can be heard across the development. We look for environmental issues, anything that could pose a safety hazard to both staff, residents, and our guests. We check to see if there are security guards or fire guards, that they're at that post at the right time. And then, of course, we look for quality of life issues, such as any trespassers or homeless people in our stairwells or our rooftops, if there are e-bikes or motorcycles blocking a means of egress. All of this occurs when we do our assessment of the entire development.
And when does that happen?
Weekly. We're trying to hit every single development within a yearly time frame, and to date we've done 114 assessments throughout the portfolio.
So to date, in terms of this calendar year, you've done 114?
Correct.
And how many do you do on an annual basis?
Well, we're trying to do 274. That's our portfolio. We get anywhere from 50 to 70% of the assessments done. We also work with the union. I forgot to mention that. Our union partners come on to do the assessments as well, so we kind of have to wait for them to be able to join us on these walkthroughs.
So with 335 developments this year, you've conducted 114 assessment.
Well, we don't do the RAD-PAC developments. We're doing the developments that are in the NYCHA portfolio.
And so how many developments remain? I forget the moving target.
It's
What is
around-
RAD-PACT and what is not?
About 130 to 140 left.
That sounds right. Could you provide the council with copy of those assessments?
Sure, absolutely.
And in particular, I'd love to see the assessment done for Red Hook, East and West.
Okay. If we got there, I have to check if we've been to that development yet.
Well, there should be one from last year, right? You're
Yeah.
doing them on an annual basis?
Yes.
We have Councilmember Salamanca has joined us virtually. So in terms of neighborhood level safety and security issues, this is really held at the property management level. I just want to make sure. And in terms of who is overseeing property managers in terms of safety and security, who do property managers check into? Is it the office?
So for all items, property managers report to a neighborhood administrator who reports to a borough vice president. So that would be the same for safety and security as it pertains to the physical infrastructure, a broken door or something like that. But as I said, there is an Office of Safety and Security that is underneath Ms. Gray and coordinates with us centrally.
My ever challenge with the NYCHA organizational structure is ongoing. At a council hearing on public safety, Mr. Raymond Rodriguez, director of the Office of Safety and Security at the time at NYCHA, described annual security assessments, which what we talked about. Excuse me. We just talked about these assessments.
I will just add that
I guess the question, I'm sorry, about the assessments, are they made public for the residents to review?
No, because they do contain sensitive information that we wouldn't want to make public about, for example, the positioning of all of our cameras. We don't want to give all that information out because it does jeopardize the safety of the residents. But I will say, I did want to add to that, the safety and security assessment that we've just been discussing, we started this year in its current form. Previous years, there were other types of assessments, but we greatly expanded the role of safety and security and this safety assessment this year. And so I just wanted to clarify that the ones we've done this year in relation to the ones that had been done previously are much more expanded and comprehensive.
So I could understand not publicly reporting on the solutions, locations of the cameras, but in terms of what the assessments are finding, why would that not be made available to the residents? The assessment themselves, like what is going on?
So the resident leader does join us for these assessments so that we are seeing safety and security through the eyes of the residents at the development every day. And we do work to address that. So if they say, for example, this area is too dark, or there needs to be pruning of bushes here, or whatever it may be, so that we can work to address those conditions. But again, we don't want to share the full report because it contains sensitive information as to the safety of the development.
So, okay, I mean, it means that I do think there are ways to do reports without including sensitive information that residents can have access to and add information to. I think it's unfortunate because there's no public record of tagging the issues and/or addressing them if there is no way to find them. And I appreciate that you have residents with you during this process. It wouldn't be a good one without them. But there should be a way for them to access this report. I look forward to receiving them and reviewing them. So how do you plan to allocate resources for the implementation and recommendations that come out of these assessments? How is that part?
So our ability to implement all of the recommendations of those reports is restricted by our budget limitations, so it really depends on the extent of the recommendations. If it's, reposition a camera here so it gets better viewing, change the position of a lighting, that's fairly easy to do. But if it's something like replace an entire door system, that's much harder. Our most recent P&A identified $137 million for the total cost of just our doors. That doesn't include cameras or lighting. So we do face a significant capital hurdle to completely replacing our doors. And the issue with, if not for a full capital replacement, we're faced with repairing a broken door over and over again, and that repair becomes less effective at each time.
Yeah. So how is NYCHA prioritizing, and how does it communicate what it will be doing to residents? In terms of improvements, I imagine you have 100 improvements, you can only do 25. How do you communicate how you're prioritizing those 25?
It would depend on a case-by-case basis as we, again, review the report and work with property management to see what we can fix within our resources.
Does every development get an allocation to address safety and security concerns?
No, it's just within our general repair budget.
So while these risk assessments are intended to be performed each year at the campuses, the information available to us is the authority-wide safety plan, or the AWSP. The AWSP, however, is not very useful in understanding the safety risks at NYCHA. For example, while reporting on a rise in crime, it does not specify what type of crime. Who develops the AWSPs?
So the Office of Safety and Security developed the authority-wide safety plan, and a lot of the work that we're doing in the authority-wide safety plan is going into actually the Community Development Risk and Safety Assessment, or the CDRSA.
Okay, and how are the assessment categories chosen?
Things that we're seeing in terms of an uptick in, e-bikes at our developments that are blocking passageway. We never had those in our assessments before. Now we have a protocol to work with NYPD to have them come and take them off the campus. We never had joint operations with the Department of Homeless Services and NYPD before. We've added that as part of our safety assessment as well. And the day-to-day operations where we see broken doors, lights, cameras, all of that has been encompassed as part of the authority-wide safety plan, but we're doing newer things as things become a problem at the developments.
And how does the AWSP allow for NYCHA to make better use of the resources?
It's giving us insight as to where we might have higher concentrations of issues at the developments where we never really did before. We essentially relied on Eagle reports just to tell us where there might be an issue, just based on the 7 crime indices. Now we're doing this from a more holistic and 360-degree view. We've never had residents involved in or participated in these before. We're really trying to get buy-in and work with our staff and our partners at a much lower level to really understand the needs of the development.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Office of Safety and Security? How many people are in that office? What is its budget?
Right now, we're between 57 and 62 staff members, and we have a budget of, I believe, $40 million. Double check that for you.
Is that an increase from prior years? Or
Fire guards? Yeah. As far as I know, it's been an increase of maybe about 5 to 10 staff members.
I'd like to recognize Councilmember Lincoln Ressler has joined us. So the Office of the Federal Monitor released a report in May of 2023 describing their findings about safety and security at NYCHA complexes. They proposed the creation of a safety and security technician position to act as a point person for safety and security issues within NYCHA neighborhoods. Is NYCHA planning on creating such a position?
Unfortunately, we don't have the funding to support the positions at this time.
So you mentioned a team of about 57 to 62 staff members. Can you explain a little bit more what that looks like?
Certainly. So we have a group that's our admin group. We have a team that focuses on reinstalling CCTVs. That's our CCTV group. And that group also helps to manage security guard and fire guard contracts. We have our resident watch group, and we have a team that does the workplace violence and the community, the comprehensive development and risk and safety assessments.
Can you give me a general breakdown of, at least percentage? I'm trying to understand how you're allocating resources within the office.
I can get back to you on the percentages of each of the groups.
So what changes have been made to address safety and security concerns raised by the monitor, particularly in the realm of the lack of communication and collaboration between NYCHA and outside agencies?
We understand the monitor's feedback in that report, and we work closely with them. We speak with them on a weekly basis, if not more often. We believe that we have strong communication with our external partners, always ways to improve, and the monitor team has been helpful in connecting us with the district attorney's offices and initiatives there that can help improve public safety response and crime prevention. But as we've stated, some of the recommendations in their report, while we would agree with, we are not able to implement because of funding restrictions.
Can you tell me which ones you're not able to implement because of
Any
funding?
that cost money, staffing.
All?
Yes.
So, got it, the entire report. No new money. Such an interesting contradiction from all the press releases. During a public housing committee hearing on February 2021, NYCHA reported that they were spending $50 million on providing security improvements across 35 developments. These security enhancements were said to involve the installation of 25 CCTV unit projects, 10 layered access control projects, and 9 lighting enhancements. Were these projects completed?
Sure, thank you, Chair. The majority of those projects have completed or are close to completion. We can provide a full list and the current status as a follow-up to the hearing if that's helpful.
Was that yesterday's press release announcement?
Yeah, a number of those projects are the ones that are highlighted in the press release. The press release from earlier in the week only focused on those projects that we've completed in the last 12 months, so since November 2022, but the majority of them, vast majority, were projects that completed in 2023.
Great, I'd love to get the complete inventory of what is complete and what is outstanding. And in particular, let's see, related to that announcement, could you tell us about the funding mix, the funding sources that were able to facilitate those projects?
Definitely. So the announcement focused on projects at 23 NYCHA developments, $24 million of funding in total. The majority of that was generously provided by city council members. There were a small number of projects that included mayoral funding or state elected funding, and there were a number of projects where we put in federal funding to close a funding gap or for another reason, but the majority of that funding was council funding.
And how far back does this council funding go?
So the majority of those projects started construction in 2022. A number of the lighting projects are much quicker and started construction in 23 and completed in 23. There are a couple projects that date back to the entrances in particular, where the construction is more complicated, back to 2021. If helpful, we can provide kind of the specific history of funding that supported those projects.
Right, so if the construction is happening in 2022, it's probably fair to say we're talking about funding that was allocated in 2019, 2018, 2017?
So typically, CCTV and lighting projects are ones that we can often do in a very abbreviated timeline. Both the design and procurement phases that in other projects could easily take us 2 years between those items, we can often complete in less than 6 months. So, in fact, a lot of these projects are able to move quicker. So, if they're in construction in 2022, where typically, could have been funded in fiscal year 22 city or fiscal year 21 city funding.
And none of these projects are the projects that NYCHA put on hold because they did not have capital money for project managing?
That's right. So when we put a number of projects on hold earlier this year, we did not include safety and security related projects in general. We do have a small number of projects that are on hold in this space, but that's typically not because of our capacity constraints. That's where the budget does not meet the scope of work that resident leaders would prefer, and therefore are advocating for additional funding to close the gap before we move ahead.
When you report the breakdown of the sources for the funding of the projects, can you also tell us specifically which developments received entryways, entryway enhancements, and how much that costs? And if you could also include the breakdown across the developments. I know you gave us kind of the aggregate, and that's fine for the press release, but I'd like to see the itemized of what the investment was per development. It's kind of hard to discern. I think I'd take a pause and turn it over to Chair Hudson.
Thank you much, Chair Aviles, and I'd like to acknowledge we've been joined by Council Members Mealy and Osei. I wanted to go back to your testimony briefly and the assessments that the chair was mentioning. Can you guarantee that the remaining developments that have not yet been assessed will be assessed by December 31st of this year, the annual assessments?
The goal is to try to get them completed by June 30th of
The fiscal
2024. Yeah.
Okay. So when you talk about annually, you're talking about annually fiscally, not calendar?
No, our goal would be to get them all done within a calendar year, which it also happens to be our fiscal year. But due to the limited resources and the scheduling constraints that are required for these inspections, again, they have multiple external partners, we're not able to get them all done within a year, but that's something we're continuing to strive for.
Okay. You also mentioned that your protocol is to alert the NYPD in the event of a non-functioning door. Does the NYPD have the ability to immediately fix broken doors?
No, they would not fix broken doors for us. What we hope to do is alert them in case it is a possible criminal or vandalism incident. We work, we want to have their help in that process, as well as for them to know that there is an unsecured door at that location.
And how quickly do you notify contractors?
Well, it depends. I've asked the staff to try to have maintenance workers repair doors as a first resort, and see how far our maintenance workers can get. They're not always possible to repair the doors, and then we would reach out to a vendor if necessary.
So who do you contact first? Maintenance or NYPD?
Maintenance.
Okay. What is NYCHA's involvement in the Cabinet for Older New Yorkers?
Sure. NYCHA participates in the Cabinet for Older New Yorkers along with our partners at Aging and NYPD. We work closely with Aging and their existing domestic violence programs. We have our family partnership program that works closely with them. There are liaisons between NYCHA and Aging, and I'm happy to refer to Aging if you want more information on how that older adults cabinet is working.
Thank you. How many NYCHA campuses have cameras?
There are a total of 214 developments that have cameras and 52 developments that do not.
Thank you. And what type of camera systems does NYCHA have?
NYCHA has 3 types of camera systems. We have the NYPD Viper, we have Argus, and we have general camera installation.
Can you provide us with a breakdown on how many cameras are monitored by the NYPD and how many cameras are monitored by NYCHA?
Sure. Okay, we can follow up with you on that.
Okay, so you don't have it now?
Okay. So 3,114 are NYPD Viper cameras and 80 are NYPD Argus cameras.
Sorry, can you repeat that? 3,114 are,
Then NYPD Viper cameras and 80 are the NYPD Argus cameras. And then the remaining are the NYCHA CCTV cameras.
What does that mean? What are those distinctions?
We'll call up Chief Secreto to help explain that distinction.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and to respond honestly to council member questions? You may proceed.
I do. Okay, Viper, the 3,000 Viper cameras, those are located in the precincts or the PSAs, the monitors, and those are accessible to the police department. The 15,000 some odd cameras are the NYCHA cameras, where we either have, they call it a SOC, or I'm drawing a blank here, I'm sorry, but the 15,000 cameras that we have that we can monitor, and there are also some of them that PD is able to monitor. Aside from Viper, there's 15 Viper cameras, and there's about 40 cameras in total, so 25 others that PD can monitor from the desk. Sergeant can monitor. They can monitor it from an iPad or a cell phone. There's about 40 of those, 15 of which are Viper. And so the 3,000 that was mentioned, those are Viper cameras as well, 15 separate developments throughout the city that are NYPD.
and when you say they can monitor, do you know how frequently they do monitor those cameras?
I don't know that, but I would imagine, every day that they're watching. There used to be separate rooms. When I was with the police department, there were separate Viper rooms that they had. At some point, they did away with that, and now those monitors are behind the desk at the various PSAs.
So would it be a safe assumption to make that NYCHA campuses with the NYPD cameras are under constant surveillance?
I think we'd have to defer to NYPD to answer that question.
Okay. And then can you just give me the total numbers of the cameras? Because you mentioned, I asked about campuses specifically. You said 214 have and 52 don't. But do you know the actual breakdown in cameras? Because now we have different numbers, 3,114, and then 15,000 NYCHA cameras that
No,
you
there's,
mentioned?
I'll clarify.
Yeah, thank
There are 18,590 cameras across
18,590 cameras.
97, 18,597 cameras across 214 developments. 52 developments do not have cameras. Of the 18,597, 15,403 are the NYCHA CCTV cameras, 3,114 are the NYPD Viper cameras, and 80 are the NYPD Argus cameras.
Perfect, thank you so much. How do you determine which cameras go where? Like NYPD Viper cameras versus the NYCHA CCTV cameras, how do you determine which developments get which type of cameras?
Yeah, that's pretty much determined by the management of the development, but it's pretty standard. It's going to be lobbies, roof landing, elevators.
Sorry, I mean the camera types.
Oh.
So how do you
So-
determine which developments get the CCTV?
NYPD supports the Viper and Argus cameras, and so they determine, and we have an MOU with them where we work closely to determine if they're willing to support additional cameras. NYCHA has the CCTV cameras that we allocate based on funding from mostly elected officials, so they're determining which developments they're going to.
And then how long is the footage kept?
Several weeks.
Can you give me a more specific answer?
I'd rather not.
Several is like
again,
4 to 7?
I'd rather not give a specific answer because, again, we believe that's a sensitive piece of information.
Okay. And which cameras are better monitored, would you say, between the CCTV cameras and the NYPD cameras? Or I should say perhaps more consistently monitored?
I can't speak to NYPD's monitoring of their cameras, but for NYCHA's cameras, we have our CCTV team that does scans and sampling of camera footage throughout the day, and property management will also look at camera footage depending on if there's an incident at the site.
So all 15,403 NYCHA CCTV cameras are monitored throughout the day, daily?
Not all of them. They'll do a sampling or a scanning of cameras.
Okay,
Quick follow-up question.
Yeah, sure.
Are the cameras, the monitors actually, are any of them located on NYCHA campuses or are they off campus?
Some are at the property management offices and some are centrally.
Oh, okay, so a combination.
Has the city considered training volunteers who might be interested in monitoring the cameras, like resident volunteers or anyone else?
We can certainly talk more about that possibility.
Okay. Thank you. I'll come back.
Yeah, we're gonna, I'd like to recognize Councilmember Chiosei, and we'd like to pass the mic to some of our colleagues. Councilmember Ressler?
Great. Thank you so much to Chair Aviles and Chair Hudson for leadership on this hearing, and it's good to see the NYCHA team. Thank you for joining us today. And I apologize if I missed this at the beginning, but just to come back on the data relative to the controller's report from last year on broken locks and doors not secured. Do you have updated data for where we are currently relative to where we were about a year ago?
Sure, and good to see you again. I feel like we're doing this once a month lately.
Is that not enough? Not frequently enough. Although I guess the good news for you is that all 7 of my NYCHA developments have been moved out of our district, so you won't have to bother me any. I won't be bothering you as much anymore.
Always happy to work together. So at the time when the controller issued his report, that was a point-in-time assessment that they had conducted of doors. I think it's important to recognize that the state of doors really does change every day. We fix them, they can be broken again. The caretaker could do their daily rounds and not notice anything and move on to their afternoon work, and the door can be broken after the caretaker leaves that building. And so the point-in-time nature is really important. After the controller issued their report and sent us those findings, we corrected all of the deficiencies that were noted. And so since then, we're not tracking specifically to that controller's report, but like I said, we are tracking every day the deficiencies that we're finding on our doors and grounds.
I mean, the controller's report found 58% of NYCHA doors were not secure, 40% had broken locks. Those are super widespread issues, and for all of us who spend time in our NYCHA developments every day, every week, it's consistent with what we experience on the ground. I mean, I called one of my tenant association presidents in advance of this hearing. You know, he said a significant number of the doors at Gowanus are broken right now, that, you know, the electronic locks are on the lobby doors are broken as we speak. Is there, just to understand the tracking, and, you know, because it's with the tracking that we can inform greater accountability, do you have a point-in-time sense for right now, or the most recent point-in-time data that you have available for what % of doors were broken, lobby doors?
Right now, at this time, we have just over 9,500 work orders for doors. That includes both lobby doors, rear exit doors, stairwell doors, and any kind of public space door. That 9,500 work orders can be anything from fully broken and not functioning to, you know, a broken handle or a broken window, but they can still lock. So we know that maintenance of building entrances is an ongoing process.
Right.
I know that every time I go out to a property, there is an issue with a door.
Totally.
This is definitely one of our biggest challenges, as I said, because it changes day to day. It's also, as I mentioned earlier, from our last P&A, $137 million need just for doors, not any other type of security enhancement. And because we're not able to do that kind of capital work, when we continue to repair a broken door, it kind of becomes like a, frankly, for lack of a better word, a Frankenstein door, where we've pieced together multiple parts and it's just not working as well as it should anymore. But that we continue to monitor and we continue to repair as best as we can.
Great. And I'll just wrap with a brief comment and question. You know, we all know how important this issue is because we have squatters, we have unsafe conditions, we have people who are perpetrating violence and dealing drugs and doing other problematic things in those buildings that don't have locked doors. And so if we're able to secure the lobby, everybody in the building is safer. And you know, we do our best to bring you the issues of the individual units that are causing challenges for neighbors, but if we can get to the heart of the matter and keep the building secure, it makes it safer for everybody. I know you know that, and I know you get it, but 9,500 is, to me, seems like a big number. I don't have a perspective, though, over time. Eve, are you able to give us any context of how does that number compare over time? Is that a high watermark for NYCHA? What was the high watermark in the last couple of years, or can you give us any perspective on how that compares? And thank you, chairs.
I can certainly follow up on a year-over-year analysis. I do believe that we are starting to lower the backlog. So far this year, we've closed more work orders than have been opened for the first time in a long time. So I think we're slowly starting
on
to
doors
chip away.
specifically?
On doors specifically. But I'm happy to follow up on a more historical analysis for you.
Or is there a place that we should be tracking that data that's publicly available?
I don't believe it's publicly available, but we're happy to follow up with you on it.
Okay, thank you, Eva, and thank you to the NYCHA team.
Thank you, Councilmember Osei.
Thank you so much, chairs, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to bring it to just a very hyper-local issue in my district. Last week, a constituent at Albany Houses told us that the locks on his building at 193 Albany Avenue were broken, and because of this, there has been an unhoused person who frequently comes into the building and makes a mess in the hallways and the basement. My first question is, has NYCHA come to Albany Houses to look into their lock situation when it comes to these doors?
I'm not familiar with that exact incident or location, but I will say NYCHA is in the houses every day. Our caretaker staff is there every day. The property management staff is there. So I'd have to follow up with property management to see what they've been doing to address that situation. I'm happy to follow up with you on that.
And secondly, does NYCHA partner with DHS on issues like this when it comes to unhoused folks who
Yes.
make their way into
Yes, I
developments?
defer to Lauren to talk more about our program with DHS.
Hi. So we go to developments. NYCHA partners with NYPD and DHS when DHS is available. When it's made known to NYCHA that there is either a pervasive homeless issue or an encampment, they go out 2 to 3 times a week with NYPD and DHS to try to offer services to the folks that are in our stairwells and on our rooftops. And if the person refuses services from DHS, the police help escort them off the campus.
Great. If you could look into that specific issue, I think some folks over there have been calling 311 about it, and, obviously those have been closed out without any.
And please make sure they're calling the CCC about
Okay.
it and not 311. The CCC will route that complaint directly to property management so we can make sure it's addressed.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
I have a quick follow-up question. What's the current level of funding for that program?
We don't have a funding for DHS's support of that program.
So NYCHA doesn't provide any funding specifically for that?
No, it's a coordination and partnership. So it's existing staff that we've committed to twice a week, going to different sites and doing walk downs, roof to basement. And if we find any unhoused individuals, we work to, DHS is there to hopefully offer them services and try to get them into shelter.
How many units are made available to do those searches?
You mean teams?
Yeah.
Do you know how many teams are?
We do it 2 to 3 times a week. Pick a different, well, not pick, but there's a different development. I think last night we were at St. Nicholas. Tuesday night we were at Brownsville.
So it's just one team that does,
I think 2 teams actually from DHS, and that's an improvement as well, because there was a time when DHS would not go inside the developments. So there was a MOU entered into probably early last year between NYPD, NYCHA, and DHS, whereas now they come inside the buildings and try and encounter homeless people and offer services, either drug treatment, mental health, or shelter. And so it's basically a team or 2. Depending on how many people we have.
a team of 2 or 2
Or
teams?
team or 2.
Oh, a team or
A team or 2, and we do, all the buildings in the development, or several buildings in the development.
Thank you.
Are you pursuing complaints that are coming in, or how are you choosing where to deploy the teams?
Yeah, definitely complaints. There was an issue in Moore houses over the weekend. I think a homeless person overdosed in the staircase, so we're going to concentrate on Moore houses. We're getting complaints of homelessness, in that development. But yeah, that's how we decide where to go based on complaints, tenant leaders, complaints, others, police department complaints.
And does NYCHA have on hand the number of complaints they've received in terms of unhoused individuals in the hallways or on the roofs, or?
No, we don't have that. I can see if we can, if that's something we can pull for follow-up for you.
Yeah, I'd love to understand what the scale. It is obviously, even from our tenant that testified earlier, an issue, and we hear anecdotally it's proliferating, particularly when the doors don't close. So we'd love to understand fully what that looks like. On average, I know this is challenging because you talked about in terms of you could repair the door and it could be broken several hours later or relatively quickly. But on average, with work order reform, how quickly are these door lock work orders being addressed?
So I love that you bring up work order reform since it's so near and dear to me, but this is actually something that's outside of the work order reform process since it's not a skilled trade response. As I mentioned, we are working with our maintenance workers to try to have them review the situation with a door, see if it's something that we can fix in-house before we reach out to a vendor. However, as we've done more door rehabs and switched over to layered access controls and improved our doors from the capital program side, it's something that we are looking at. We're having to retrain our maintenance workers to be able to handle the maintenance of, and therefore are more often than not having to reach out to vendors to have the doors repaired.
Yeah, does that require developments to have materials on site, like
Sometimes, and sometimes we rely on the vendors to bring the materials.
to bring? In terms of the layered access, how much does it cost to install layered access controls in a NYCHA building?
So layered access controls is a kind of broad concept that typically or basically means that there are multiple ways that you're securing the entry. So in addition to the physical door, typically layered access control will include the ability to change access controls through key fobs that can be managed centrally or digitally. It can include intercoms, it can include video intercoms, it could include additional CCTV cameras and a range of other components, right? And so we look at what is the priority for the given site and based on the budget and try to maximize what resident leaders and our property staff are prioritizing. So the cost can range quite a bit depending on which components we're talking about. So if we are kind of saying let's do everything, including even increasing visibility in the lobby and things like that, you could see an entryway project costing $1.5 million for one building. But if we're just doing a door replacement and maybe the storefront around the door, then we can do that for $300,000. So there's a range of prices based on what we're trying to achieve.
Is there evidence that the implementation of layered access controls reduces crime in NYCHA?
So I think that that is a very good question and something that we think about a lot and try to test when we put in layered access control in terms of monitoring that, surveying residents. There are a lot of confounding factors, as you would imagine, that drives security at a specific building or a site that may or may not be related to layered access control or other components. I think that's the kind of thing we'd partner with NYPD and others to look at systematically and who are better placed to understand the crime data and work with us on that.
So does NYCHA keep track of certain dimensions or criterias over a long period of time?
We're not currently tracking that, although we could certainly talk about working with NYPD if they're on a specific research into that question. But as Sean said, we really have to defer to NYPD as the criminologists to determine cause and correlation of what's of the crime that is happening at our developments.
Yeah, and at least associating checking in outcomes, right? If you're actually having systems that work, do you see a reduction? I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Mealy. Councilmember?
Thank you. I just have a few questions. Has there been any review comparing the time that property management and staff takes to repair compared to the outside contractors?
We have not done that analysis primarily because if we're having to go to a vendor to get the repair, it's usually because we're not able to do the repair in-house due to either materials or labor skills. Again, as the doors become more complicated, it's not just a simple repair. It becomes, more electrical or other in nature, and so it wouldn't necessarily be a one-to-one analysis.
So how do you select the contractors? How many WMBEs?
The vendors go through our typical procurement process for the doors, for repairing these types of doors and maintaining.
Bids?
Yes, it's our regular procurement process.
Because I just heard you tell my colleague that the managers go check the doors. So how often do the management go check to make sure the doors are secure?
So our caretakers, as part of their daily walkthroughs of the buildings
But
and
how
grounds.
how were they able not to know that Albany projects or Marcus Garvey projects doors are closed or open? Shouldn't you say they all on staff right then? So is it daily, do they check them? Or
Yes.
after they check them, if they find out, because they on site every day, do they go back and put in a report?
Yeah, so the caretakers, through their
How
award,
did they not know about Albany door that was closed? The door was broken.
they usually know that the door is broken, and if the maintenance worker is not able to fix it, then we have to reach out to a vendor. That repair doesn't usually happen in the same day. So
How's the repair turnaround time to fix it?
it varies depending on the problem with the door. I can certainly take a look at our data and follow up with you on repair times.
Okay, then. One thing I want, Marcus, what is your take, or has the administration considered having a different weight size of doors for seniors? NYCHA have a lot of seniors housing. And when I go to the building, the door is really heavy. And these are seniors. I went to visit a 96-year-old, and she said that door downstairs is really heavy. So have y'all ever considered changing that?
Yes, I'll hand it over.
Or a video comm for senior buildings by itself?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember Mealy. Something that we do hear a lot about and think about a lot. We have been piloting a new type of door for the last couple of years at a number of sites.
Where?
I can give you the list of specific developments in a moment, but this is a more standard residential door than we have at many NYCHA properties. It's an aluminum door, but with steel reinforcements. So the benefits are that it's as strong as the doors that we've had traditionally, but it's lighter. It's also much more available on the market, easier to replace and repair. So we've been running this, what we call our entryway pilot, that combines those new doors with more visibility in the lobby with video intercoms and other components. And so far that's been successful at the sites where we've done that. And we're doing that based on a lot of resident feedback the last few years in engagement, where we designed this pilot to implement at 5 developments. And then we're hoping that if it's as successful as we're hoping, to be able to mobilize funding to expand that more broadly. But that's the one main effort that we have that gets at your issue around the weight of the doors themselves.
I will get it after the hearing. Out of the 5 pilot sites, how many are seniors developments?
That's something I can also come back to you on as a follow-up, if that's possible.
It's only 5. Shouldn't one of them be seniors? At least one?
Yeah, because so we have some exclusive senior developments, and we have developments that have exclusive senior buildings.
Right.
I just want to make sure that the 5 buildings we're doing it at, and give you an accurate answer on that.
To have due diligence, one of them should have been a senior building straight away. I mean, first thing, because those doors are really, really, really heavy. So thank you.
Yeah, so I think the sites that we're doing it at are 45 Allen Street, Carver Houses, Cassidy Lafayette, Seth Lowe Houses, and Conlon Leaf Tower.
Seth Lowe is mine.
Yes, and so I was going to say Seth Lowe is where we have a senior.
But it's not a senior development, like
Yes.
Marcus Garvey. And just for your knowledge, you should check, that door is kind of secure. But they do have homeless living on the 6th floor. And whenever they call the police or PSA, they leave and come right back. And the people on that floor is very scared. I mean, it's becoming people where they live. It's exactly right by the roof. So could we please keep an eye on that? And that's a senior, all seniors. Thank you. Thank you, Chairs.
Mr. Mavani, could you repeat the 5 developments? You said 45 Allen, Carver, Seth Lowe, and I missed the last 2.
Sure, Cassidy Lafayette.
Lafayette.
And Conlon Leaf Tower.
And
What?
Conlon Life.
And can you tell us a little bit more what will make the pilot successful? What is it that you will be tracking and over what period of time?
Yeah, so after we finish construction at each site, we are both monitoring, performance in terms of, what was asked earlier, are the doors being broken again? Are there security incidents? But we're also surveying residents at each of the sites about how they feel about the renovation. Do they feel that it's improved safety and security? And then concretely, where do they see those benefits coming? We're also in that pilot trying video intercom systems, new type of intercoms and fobs and other aspects, also surveying them on if that's working well for them, if they're seeing challenges and things like that. So given we've now finished construction at 4 of the 5 sites, we've started to get that feedback.
And how long will you track it for?
I believe that our plan is to track it for 1 year at each of the sites after completing construction, to be able to understand what other refinements could be made, and then to think about how we might be able to fund this at a broader set of sites.
And how much did the pilot cost?
The cost at each of the buildings ranges between, I think, 1 million and 1.75 million. I have the exact numbers, and I can either find them or provide them as a follow-up if helpful, but that's the general range. One of the objectives of the pilot was to try to optimize cost by both cost and the ability to repair quickly if there is issues, given that's one of our challenges in the past. And so we continue to think about how do we provide these improvements at the best possible cost.
And in terms of you don't have the repair piece yet because you haven't been to that part of the pilot, but how do you anticipate, will you have maintenance staff particularly trained in how to repair the doors, or how are you anticipating addressing that differently?
Sure. One of the design elements of the pilot was to make sure that the different components of the doorways and other aspects are easily available on the market, and therefore it's easier for our developments to order them, but also that there is wide knowledge about their installation and usage, right? So I think we'll look at this question of, is there further training required? But generally, the door technology itself is not something very unique. The intercom systems are usually where there's quite, there can be specific technical skills or capabilities required because of the electronics in there and other components. And so if we introduce a new technology like this at a number of developments, we'll typically keep vendor contracts on to ensure in the initial period there's support. And then over time, if we can bring that into our staff training to provide that. I just want to correct, now that I have the financial data, the cost did range in a couple developments around $1 million, but in a number of the developments it was significantly more at 2.8 million or 3 million. That really depends on the size of the lobby and other features that we're doing at that building.
Got it. And in terms of, has there been a review or study of when work can be done in-house and the comparisons between the cost of in-house repair work and outside contracting for the doors in particular?
For the repairs?
Yeah.
Yes. On each individual case, we're making that analysis. And so, again, as I mentioned, if it's something simple like a hinge or doorknob or something that we think our maintenance workers can repair, we do try to make those repairs in-house because that's both the quickest and cheapest way for us to get the door back in service. However, we do often have to call in a vendor to have the doors repaired.
And can you tell us how much, I guess in total, is allocated for outside contracting to repair doors?
I don't have that total value with you, but I can certainly follow up.
And I'd also like to know, in the event that the contractors who are awarded repair contracts, if they fail to complete their work, what are their clawbacks or other remedies, and what that looks like? And has NYCHA actually done that with any of its contractors?
So the door contracts, the door vendors are, similar to any of our contracts where we have accountability measures in the contract. There are, a lot of work with our doors going around, and we actually did have one vendor who we didn't feel was performing, where we were hearing long delays in getting their response. They were also, I think, facing a large volume of workload themselves from our needs, and we called them in and we sat them down and we went through the doors that are pending with them, what they were facing from their supply and labor market issues, and we've seen some improvement in their performance since then. But we've also been working on issuing new contracts to expand our capacity of vendors in this field.
Yeah, please.
How many contractors do you use for exterior doors and locks?
We can follow up, but I think right now we have about 3 or 4 vendors on contract for doors specifically.
And do you know, on average, how long each of those vendors have been contracting with the city?
I don't, but we can follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'd like to recognize Deputy Speaker Ayala.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I'm late. I was watching in the car, so on the way here. And I just want to say congratulations on securing Secreto. He's great. He's been very helpful to my community, and he's always available when we reach out. I have 3 questions. One is regarding the layered access. So my concern is that I know that the original vendor went out of business, and so when you say that you're still seeking public dollars for vendors for the layered access, what vendor are you using? Is it somebody new?
I'm not sure which vendor you're referring to that went out of business, but we have, I think we have 2 vendors that are specific for layered access right now, and then 2 other vendors for our other types of doors.
So when they first started installing the layered access systems, we gave money for like Corsi houses, for instance, to install layer access, and they were maintaining them, and then they were not. And then when I reached out, I was told that the reason was that that specific contractor was out of business and they didn't have the parts. So is that not accurate?
We can certainly follow up. I'm just not familiar with that specific case, but I'm happy to follow up on what happened there.
Yeah, and it wasn't just specific to Corsi. Like during that time, other buildings that had the same system installed had similar issues. So I'm curious to find out if that contractor went out of business, as I was told. How does does the new contractor then? Are they able to maintain that system if it's not their system? Because it has been problematic for us.
Yes, I do believe other vendors are able to maintain those systems, but like I said, we have about 3 or 4 vendors that work on different types of doors. So layered access is the most complicated and complex because, as Sean mentioned, it involves both the intercom system, sometimes connections with cameras. So you need electrical and sometimes inter IT type work, connections to the phone system and things like that. Other vendors so some vendors aren't able to do that level and just do the basic door repair work.
Yeah.
But we can follow up on the specific.
That would be great. I think one of the other concerns that I had is that because that system was so expensive, we weren't able as an office to replicate it through all of our developments, so we specifically focused on the senior buildings. But one of the selling points for it was that if you had a side door that was left open, there would be some sort of alarm that would ring to some security office, and then somebody would immediately come and close it, and we found that actually does not happen at all. So there have been many times when I've gone to, and I'll keep using Corsi as an example, to Corsi, and the side door by the parking lot is continuously left open by transients that are living in the building. They usually use a rock or something. But I just assumed that it was because we were still trying to figure out who the partner would be. So if there is a partner now, then I'm curious to know why that's still the case, right? Because that was really the selling point for me. When I'm considering funding projects, and I felt that was a little bit expensive for that system. I said, well, the added benefit is that there are other protections that are very unique to the system, but if there's no oversight over it and it's not working, it doesn't really make me want to continue to fund them, you know? And I want to be helpful, but
Thank you. We appreciate your support and generous funding throughout the years, and we definitely will follow up to see what happened with those security features that you're mentioning. 'Cause they do sound very helpful.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And regarding security, so typically at some of my senior buildings have security, some of my buildings don't have security. I don't know how NYCHA makes the determination on who gets it and who doesn't, and how NYCHA determines what the amount of time the security should be allowed in these buildings is. But I find that usually it's like 8 hours, so the seniors can decide whether they want 8 to 4 or 4 to 12, right? And so it becomes problematic because you're just moving people around, and then the folks that we don't want to be coming into the building are like, oh, well, there's no one there during the day, so let me go in the day, and then at night we have a problem. So I've always requested 24-hour security for these buildings because of the sensitivity, right, regarding the age of the folks that live there, and they're a little bit more vulnerable. Is this something that NYCHA has considered?
So right now, we're providing security at 56 senior developments, which are all the senior-only buildings in the portfolio. And it is just a single 8-hour shift. And that 8-hour shift is determined by the resident association president about, as you said, whether they want it during the day or at night. And unfortunately, we are severely limited with our funding in order to do anything further.
Yeah, $40 million for security.
And
I heard it on the
$7 million.
I heard it on the drive down.
Yes, $7 million of it goes to these security guards at senior, and other part of that $40 million is for our fire guard watches. So it does not go as far as it sounds as it goes.
So I know that some of my senior buildings are transitioning now to RAD and PACT. Are all senior buildings transitioning, or is it just a select few?
No, just if the development already has a senior building or is part of the PACT pipeline, it will go out, but it's not a senior program.
Okay, because one of the things that I do like that they offer is that it feels more like a Section 202 proposal, where you have the social services component and you also have the security features. I never understood why NYCHA was in the business of having senior-focused buildings, because they didn't have. Back many years ago, they used to have like a social worker on site that knew if apartment 2C hadn't been seen, in a while, if the mail was backing up in the, in the mailbox. That doesn't exist anymore. And, I'm concerned because these buildings, again, what we did was that we populated them with a vulnerable population and then left them there to really fend for themselves. And many of them, as you've heard through the testimony of the opening remarks from the council members and the chairs this afternoon, have encountered pretty serious criminal activity, within the scope of their buildings. I know for sure that in my buildings, the 1st and the 3rd of the month, I mean, the rate of break-ins into apartments, the prostitution that's happening in the hallways, serious things are happening in those facilities, and and I think that it merits a conversation about really rethinking the way that we oversee these vulnerable buildings, or not have them, right? But we can't just continue to leave them there, because seniors come with very unique needs. I had a senior at Gaylord White. She was 104 years old, and she would call me every few months so that we can go to her house and change her light bulb, because she couldn't change her light bulb, and the maintenance unit would say that that wasn't their job. We have seniors that have severe arthritis that can't open windows, and they need somebody to help, with that as well. But security definitely is always at the top of everybody's list.
I appreciate your raising those issues. I do want to say too that I do think one of the great benefits of the PACT program is that they do have the funding to provide more substantial security than we're able to provide through our funding, and that is definitely a benefit of going through that conversion in that program. And NYCHA, would love to provide more security if we had more funding to do it. I also want to add, as earlier when we were talking about the monitor's report and not having the funding to staff it, that's NYCHA's internal funding. None of that is provided through the city's OMB. It's not a head count or city issue like you hear from other agencies. It's just within NYCHA's federal budget. But what we do get and from the city and is a really important resource from us is CDBG funding in order to support the Elderly Safe at Home program that we have right now across 20 sites in our portfolio. We have sites in every borough except Staten Island, and every senior in those developments is automatically part of the Elderly Safe at Home program and involves check-ins with the staff that go out to the developments, check on the seniors, make sure they're connected to services and whatever they need. So that is a really important program that we're very thankful to get city support for.
Is it possible that you could share some information about that with the council members?
Absolutely, we'll send that over.
Because I think it would be helpful for our constituent services staff to understand that that program does exist. And I think lastly, my last question is regarding the CCTV cameras. So I had an incident a couple of years ago at Carver Houses where a young man was shot and killed. And ironically enough, we had installed, we funded the installation of CCTV cameras at the development, and that camera that could have captured what happened was not operational that day. And on top of that, the lighting within the proximity of where that camera was situated was also out. So the adjacent cameras caught some shadows, but they couldn't necessarily they couldn't see because it was dark. And so my question is, who's responsible for the daily check-in to ensure that all of the cameras, like, does this happen daily? Does it happen weekly? Does it happen monthly? And who's responsible for making sure that the lights and the cameras are working, that there's no obstruction that's preventing, access to footage? And what is the process for getting those repaired?
So it's a combination of both property management and the Office of Safety and Security. When property management does its walkthrough from roof down to the basement, they're supposed to be looking to see if there's any impacts to the camera, whether they've been vandalized or they've been moved. And they should be reporting it immediately to the Office of Safety and Security so we can go out and repair it. Additionally, the Office of Safety and Security does spot checks on the 18,000 cameras that we have throughout the week to make sure that they're functioning and operational. And as far as the lighting, that's also property management. As they walk the grounds throughout the day, they are supposed to ensure that the lighting is working correctly.
So you use the word should. Is there some sort of requisite that mandates that every day as part of their, I'm coming in, this is my checklist, I have to make sure that all the lights are up, I have to make sure that all the cameras are operational?
I will change my vocabulary from should to shall.
Okay, all right. And so now the property manager notices that there's a maintenance issue with one of the cameras. How long does it take from the time that is reported to the time that the repair?
If it's something that we can do in-house, it usually takes less than 72 hours to fix. If it's more complicated, we might have to go out to a vendor to get it repaired.
And that could take as long as?
It varies. We try to get it done hopefully with under 2 weeks.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd just like to follow up to make sure I'm understanding. So property management staff is walking, doing visual checks. Let's say visual checks is camera looks like it's working. And then I guess within the office, they're doing the spot checks once a week. What are they spot checking? Like,
They're doing checks daily at various developments. They're checking to see if they turn on the angles, if anything's blocking or obstructing the view of the camera, making sure that they work properly. And taking.
So they can tell visually, just looking at the camera, that it's actually functional?
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to just quickly follow up before I call on you, Council Member, regarding the senior program that you talked about. Elderly Safe at Home program, yes. If you could, I know you mentioned, I think one in every borough, but could you tell us what that program is specifically? what developments have this program, and if there are any plans to expand the program to all NYCHA developments.
Sure. So there's 20 developments across every borough but Staten Island, and we'll send you the list of the 20. The Elderly Safe at Home program is funded by the city through CDBG funds, so we're not able to propose an expansion of it on our own, but it's a program that we take advantage of, and we're very happy to have that support. It involves having a social service worker providing daily check-ins on residents at those sites, giving them support of whatever they need, whether it's living support, crime prevention, crime intervention, other types of education and workshops. The assigned social workers will meet with residents. They go door to door doing wellness checks. And so it's an important just kind of quality of life, not just safety and security, but quality of life for our seniors program.
And how much CBDG funding?
I don't have the dollar amount in front of me, unfortunately, but we'll definitely follow up with you on that.
And can you tell us what developments the program is currently in?
It's in 20. I would just rather send you the list.
Yes,
and read
send,
it out.
send us the list, please. Okay, and with that, I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you. I hate those fab keys. So Wise Towers has them, the seniors hate them, 139 has them, the seniors hate them. This is all about seniors and security. So are they in regular NYCHA, or are they just in the PAC program? And what are you doing about it? I've written letters, so I assume you know that. And I talk about it endlessly because people won't even go out at night. They're scared to go out at night because their key won't work for their apartment. Now, that's fixable.
It is fixable, and thank you for bringing it up, because
I bring it up all the time.
I know you do. We believe we've resolved all the key fob issues that were happening at Wise Towers. For a large majority of it, it was a battery replacement issue that needed to happen. But key fobs is a technology that we use across the city in many of our portfolios. It's not just for those developments that you mentioned or just for senior developments. It is a technology that we're using across our program.
Do you do any surveys to see if the seniors like them or not? Because if the battery's out at midnight, there's nobody to call.
We have not done any surveys, but you can call the CCC, and we would have someone come out there and help you into the development at any time of the day.
At midnight?
At midnight.
Has that happened?
I don't know off the top of my head, but you can call the CCC, and we would send an emergency services staff out there.
All right, I would like to see that. I will check, but I don't believe it's as perfect as you think. Number two, how much does a camera cost? The Hostos many years ago was $75,000 for one camera. I thought that was excessive.
Thank you, Councilmember Brewer. So I don't have the offhand just a single camera replacement cost with me. We can follow up. When we're doing CCTV installations for the first time, obviously it will be the cameras plus,
the system.
Yes, fiber optic, the monitors, and all of that. So it can be more expensive.
Can you give us a breakdown so that we have some sense of it?
Yes, we'll provide you our standard cost estimate for camera projects, and you'll be able to see the different components there.
The other question I have is, and maybe this, I was doing a Zoom next door. So the issue is how information about what's repairable, not repairable is done in real time. In other words, if the door is out, this is out, that's out. You probably know it, I assume. I just want to know, how do you know it? And then is there some way that the public, meaning the residents, could also know that without compromising security, which I know is of concern? We just want to know, how do you know when the door is out, the CCTV, the layered, et cetera? And is there some way that the residents could know that in a real-time function?
So we know it on a property management by property management basis.
And that's done on a technology basis, so, or is that on paper?
No, it should be through a technology basis, in that when a caretaker or other worker reports a damaged door, we would create a maximum work order for that door repair, whether it's done by a maintenance worker or a vendor. We would have note of that repair. And that's why I was able to say today that I know we have just over 9,500 door work orders right now in our system that are open. So we do track that information. As far as CCTV cameras and lights, it would be the same. We would be able to track that those work orders.
Okay, is there any way that the public can know this, or the residents, in terms of because they call all day long, as you can imagine, the door's out, the door's out, the door's out. And we certainly contact management and contact you. We write you a lot of letters, as you know, but there's no real time.
What we would do is we would post flyers in the lobby and in the building as to if there's a certain situation. We've had an intercom situation where we've posted flyers explaining the timing of the repair for an intercom, which can sometimes take a long time to get repaired. And so we do try to post information in the lobbies for those residents so that they're informed.
Okay, but there's no real, I keep trying to ask, there's no real time on a computer to know for the residents who are computer literate to know that there were doors out, it'll be fixed in 10 days or whatever?
No, partially, again, because of the security issue. We don't want anyone to be able to look up and see that this door will be remaining to be unlocked for another 10 days.
All right, but even the tenant leaders don't know?
We try to keep our tenant leaders informed, but we're happy to answer any specific questions if someone comes to us with, asking for a status update on a situation. We will provide them that information.
Okay. Final question is the monitor. You have a new monitor. I understand Mr. Schwartz is moving on. So my question is, the monitor will continue to just do the mold and lead and not have anything to do with these topics. Is that correct?
I can't speak to the new scope of the new monitor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Barron online and Councilmember Sanchez. And I'd like to ask a follow-up question before I turn it over to Councilmember Sanchez. Does NYCHA conduct audits or re-inspections of the CCTV cameras or layered access doors to ensure they're properly functioning? And how often does that get done?
I wouldn't say we conduct audits of those because we are checking for deficiencies every single day when the caretakers are going through the buildings. And as we've said, we do sampling of the camera footage to see what's working and what's not working.
And is anyone monitoring that unit to make sure that those things are working and not working? So this is what I'm getting at. Maybe it sounds a little obtuse, but it sounds like we're checking in the cameras, but until there's an issue that happens, right, and then it's clear that cameras have been out or the lighting was out and not capturing any of the images that are needed then we realize that there was a problem. I'm assuming throughout this whole time there were spot checks, there were daily checks, there were whatever weekend checks. Clearly there's still a breakdown in the process. So is there any additional checking in or auditing to make sure that the cameras that are identified that are offline or not functioning properly are brought properly online? What's the next layer of oversight that happens to make sure that these things don't happen and they're captured?
So I just want to clarify that I don't believe a broken camera is necessarily a reflection of a broken process. As I said, we could check everything in the morning and they can be broken again in the afternoon, and then we would identify it again in the next time we check. So there is a constant review of all of these pieces of infrastructure, as you call them, that create the safety and security for the residents. But we also have a quality assurance department that's out at our sites all the time. They would be following up if they see a deficiency as well.
Got it. Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you so much, chairs, and good afternoon. Good to see you.
Good afternoon.
So I have a general question and then a question that came from one of my tenant resident association leaders. So the general question is, in comparison to HPD inspectors go into a building, they are mandated to look for certain conditions in the lobby and units. Is there any comparable list that NYCHA maintenance workers need to consider when they enter an apartment?
So when maintenance workers enter an apartment to respond to a work order, they also have to do what we call a 5 Alive check. And that's not just actually maintenance workers, that's any worker that comes into an apartment, they do a 5 Alive check. That 5 Alive is GFCI outlets, smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector, fire signage, and window guards. And so that's a standard check that we do every time we enter an apartment.
Got it. Thank you. And so can you share how they record that information, and does NYCHA audit these records?
Sure. So all of that information is recorded in our work order, and I also want to add that in addition to the daily work of our team, we also have annual inspections that NYCHA performs on apartments, as well as inspections through HUD that are performed, formerly known as FOS, and now the NSPIRE program, that are performed that do quality checks both in our units and our grounds.
Great. Thank you so much. And then in particular, does NYCHA inspect fire suppression systems on a regular basis?
Yes. Do you want to talk about fire?
Sure. We have a new fire safety department that was just recently formed at NYCHA. It was originally a unit. We just brought on someone who has over 30 years of experience in fire safety and is looking to transform how we do business in fire safety. We currently have an independent vendor that goes out and does inspections of our fire safety suppression system. And if any repairs are necessary, we use another vendor to actually make the repairs. So it's separate and apart from one another.
Got it. Thank you. And then last, and then if the chair would permit me my complex question, but the last general question is concerning electric micromobility vehicle and devices. We understand that there were new rules that went to effect. When does NYCHA implement those proposed changes, and what is it looking like?
So right now we have a proposed rule that's out for comment. It is not in effect yet. They went out on November 1st, and the comment period closes December 31st. All of the information on that micromobility policy is on our website. I encourage you to share that with your constituents and our residents. We're looking for all of our comments to be submitted by December 31st on that policy.
Thank you. And that's for mopeds, e-bikes, all of that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then if the chairs would allow me, thank you. My complex specific question is regarding NYCHA's practices around tenants that feel unsafe because other tenants are not following rules. So at Sedgwick Houses in particular, I have residents who say that their lobbies have been taken over, that there's activity that makes them feel unsafe, that they've been yelled at by folks that live in the building, don't live in the building, our guests. So the question is about how does NYCHA use the security camera footage to learn about these kinds of situations, and how is NYCHA enforcing the safety rules and quality of life rules that you have in the leases?
Yes, that is a very complex question. It is a very complex issue that really requires us to both respect resident rights and determine how best to enforce the lease and the quality of life for other residents. So we do, if there are people hanging out in the lobby that shouldn't be hanging out in the lobby, we are able to bring in NYPD, and we work with our partners there to come in if we think it's an unsafe condition that's happening. If we have cameras in that lobby, we will certainly use it to see if there's any illegal activity going on other than just loitering, which is unpleasant, but not necessarily something that is enforceable from a lease perspective. But if we work closely with residents as much as possible to enforce our lease on residents that are causing problems in buildings. It's not a fast process, as you can imagine, but we have to go through a step-by-step process to work with the residents, call them in, go through the termination process. We have been working closely actually with Councilmember Ressler on an issue in Gowanus where we were luckily recently able to achieve the eviction of squatters in the development that was causing problems for the rest of the residents. But it does take a long time for us to achieve that.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to working on the Sedgwick Houses issue with you all.
Absolutely.
Does NYCHA conduct proactive inspections to see if self-closing doors or trash chutes are operating?
Yes, the trash chutes are part of our daily walk downs, that the caretakers are supposed to be checking that all the trash chutes are closing properly. And we also have a waste management department that does checks on trash chutes as well, and will help do repairs to trash chutes if it's something that goes above and beyond a maintenance worker. On fire safety. Sorry, what was it?
Self-closing doors.
Self-closing doors.
Yeah.
That is also something that's just part of the caretaker's walk down, yeah.
The daily checks. And we have them, right? We have self-closing
Yes, all the doors in the
doors.
stair halls must be self-closing. And I can just say personally, if you've ever done a walk down with me, I check every single door, every single hopper, every time I'm in a building.
No, that's great. In terms of emergency evacuations and emergency plans, how do the residents receive an emergency plan? Are they ever convened to say, in the advent of a fire or emergency, this is what you need to do?
So for emergency evacuation plans, we'd defer to NICEM and whatever emergency evacuation plans are in place for that area. For fire.
For fire, we have the stickers on the door, which tell you the proper location, and every year we're mandated to send out through an annual notice fire safety information about the property.
And does FDNY ever do resident engagement around that? Because I'm almost sure nobody has ever read that fire safety sticker on the.
So I'm glad you brought that up. We just had two great events with FDNY. We're really trying to form a phenomenal partnership with them. We recently just had a fire safety symposium where we invited over 100 TA presidents to come to the Fire Safety Museum during Fire Safety Month in October to talk about fire safety at NYCHA developments and what they could do to prevent. We provided like a whole Q&A panel with people from both FDNY and NYCHA, along with documents that they can bring back to the development. And the last thing that we recently did at the end of October, we brought an actual fire truck to Farragut houses and simulated an actual smoke condition to teach children how to get out of fires from their apartments. And we invited both parents and kids to participate in it. And we intend to continue this partnership at our family days in the upcoming season in 2024.
That's great. I guess, given the number of natural instances, particularly Hurricane Sandy, the fires that we've had, it becomes very evident that if you have no practice of the muscle of emergency evacuation, nor do you have a plan identifying your most vulnerable residents who's homebound, it can be a really chaotic and awful situation. I know the residents will know everybody in the building, but certainly engaging in periodic person-to-person review around what will we do if there is an emergency situation, and who can be a captain of a building to make sure that our seniors are being evacuated properly. Where is there oxygen, right? That could potentially be another significant fire hazard and stuff in the building.
And we agree with you, Council Member. In fact, as we expand our fire safety department, we plan on getting trainers to the program to go out to the developments to work with our TA presidents and their board to try to identify building captains and explain to them their role and responsibility in the case of a fire as well. So we want more activity and involvement with the residents at large once we build up the program.
Oh, that's great. I'm pleased to hear.
I have a few questions as follow-up from some of my colleagues. So bear with me because I've got notes scribbled everywhere here. But regarding the testimony from Julie Sharpton, who is at Whitman Houses, which is in my district, I'm just curious to know. She listed a lot of issues and concerns pertaining to safety and security in her building. How do you collect feedback from residents?
So we're in constant contact with our residents, particularly our resident leaders, through our Resident Services Participation and Initiatives Department. So we we are getting complaints, issues, anything that they want to bring to us. Some of them come directly to my office and to me personally, and we work through all of our proper channels to address it, whether it's a complaint, whether it's a repair need, whether it's something that we need to flag to Office of Safety and Security and bring NYPD in. I mean, we've had cases with resident leaders bringing, like we heard today, and I took notes to follow up with her at Whitman about, again, homeless individuals living in the buildings. Maybe this is something that needs to get on the rotation for one of those assessments that we're doing. So we take everything as feedback. Every conversation is feedback, and we use it, every single day.
Thank you, and that's a perfect segue to one of my next questions. I've worked with Mr. Secreto at Whitman Houses specifically with that same program, and I guess my question is, I think it's a good program, although personally I don't think the NYPD should be dealing with the issue of homelessness, but that's a separate issue for a separate hearing, I suppose. But I think it's a good program, and DHS being involved, and being able to provide specific resources to people in need. But it seems like the way the program is structured, and with only having 1 or 2 teams available for the whole city, number one, that there aren't enough resources, allocated to the program, and then number two, that the program is really addressed as if it's an acute problem, but it's really a chronic problem that we see all across the city. And I think we've heard from, my colleagues who've all experienced similar issues in their districts as well. And I know you mentioned more houses earlier, but is there any plan to expand that program or any consideration to expand the partnership that you have with DHS and the way that MOU currently works?
It has been a really productive partnership and collaboration with DHS and NYPD, and we agree that having that DHS component there is critical because it is a resource to talk to the individuals that we're finding, understand the resources that they need, whether or not they're willing to come into shelter or accept services, and that's something that no one else but DHS can really have that conversation with. And it also provides us a feeling of safety and security for our employees as well as our residents, and our employees are often very hesitant to approach an individual that they see because they fear for their safety. We have had caretakers that have been attacked by these individuals if they were seen removing their belongings or so forth. So it is a really important partnership for us, and we welcome any future conversations about expanding the program.
Okay, great. You also mentioned earlier that NYCHA doesn't maintain all of the camera systems, particularly at Packed Rad sites. Who does maintain the camera systems at those sites?
The developer, the Packed Rad developer, who is the property manager.
Okay. Thank you. Going back to the contractors for doors, how do you measure the quality of work? And how do you measure the quality of their work? I know you mentioned there's accountability measures and that you brought in one of the contractors, but do you have like a formal system or KPIs that you use to determine whether a contractor is meeting the needs of the residents?
We have a contract review process, but I will admit it's probably not specific to the individual repair. I think the best way is if the repair holds and isn't broken again unless it's broken again by vandalism or something beyond our control, which does happen quite a lot. So if the repair holds, that's our measure of success.
Okay, and then when you remove a vendor or consider removing a vendor, how is that decision made? Is it based on an objective basis or subjective basis?
So we haven't removed any vendors yet. Again, we hold them accountable through conversations and follow-ups and ensuring that they're doing the work that they're scheduled to do. However, we know that we work through the city system, so if we have an issue with a vendor, we can put that into Passport so that any other city agency can see that. We haven't had to do that on any of these door vendors because we've been working closely with them to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, thank you. You also mentioned, I believe it was in response to Councilmember Osei's question, that residents shouldn't call 311. Why is 311 not an option to report issues? And have you ever considered integrating your system into 311?
Because our system at the customer contact center routes directly to NYCHA staff that can respond. It would be an extra step to have someone call 311, only then to have it routed to NYCHA to respond. We are the landlord, and so just if you have a problem in your apartment, you don't call 311, you call your landlord, and it's only when your landlord doesn't respond that you call 311. But for us, the best way to get us to respond is to have that information go through the CCC. We can directly route our staff to that issue, and we use that information as data. Like I said, everything is feedback. This is particularly important as we're heading into heat season right now, to be able to see every single apartment that's complaining about heat, to be able to identify, does it mean a line is out, a whole building is out, is it just this one apartment that may be cold? So it's really important that all that information comes through our CCC so we can use the data to best target our response.
Thank you. And then, sorry, back to doors. I mentioned I have notes scribbled everywhere, so
Yeah.
just bear with me. Yeah, right.
You guys are perfect together.
How many intercom systems require a mobile device?
Require a mobile device.
Just to clarify, by mobile device, do you mean a
Like-
key fob or do you mean a phone?
Like a phone to let somebody in the building or something like that?
We'll have to come back to you with an exact answer on that, but we have different types of intercom systems that have that option of being on a phone and providing that flexibility to residents to be able to buzz somebody in. The majority of them have that functionality.
If you can, in your follow-up, also include, is there any opportunity for older adults to be provided with a mobile device if they don't have one? I've heard from constituents who are unable to use the intercom system or to let guests in because they don't have a mobile device. And so I'm just wondering if NYCHA has a program that would make mobile devices or something so that they can actually use the system that's in their building available to them.
I'll also double check. I believe they can still be routed to a landline, but we will double check that information and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you describe how NYCHA tracks elevator outages?
Sure. All elevator outages are tracked through our Maximo work order system, so we are able to track all of that. We also have the service interruption page on our website where you can see any outages, both elevator, heat, gas, electric.
What's the current status of elevator outages across NYCHA developments?
I don't have that off the top of my head, though I could pull up our service interruption page, but that information changes hourly.
Okay, and then when you provide the follow-up, can you please include disaggregated data by borough and council district, and also seniors-only NYCHA developments?
We will follow up with you on your specific elevator request to make sure we have the right data included.
Okay, thanks. I don't know if you'll have this, but do you know which developments suffer from chronic elevator outages?
No, I don't have that information off the top of my head.
Okay, and how are NYCHA residents made aware of elevator outages?
So when there is an elevator outage condition, we start with doing a robocall to all residents to inform them of the outage, and then we will also flyer the building, and we will make note if there are stair climber services available to assist residents in getting back to their apartment.
How quickly does that happen once you've been notified of the outage or you're aware of the outage?
Once the elevator mechanics have identified this is an outage, they open the work order, the robocall is automatically triggered from there, and then staff will go out and flyer the buildings.
And who provides the stair climber services?
It's provided by NYCHA staff.
NYCHA staff is responsible for potentially carrying residents who might be wheelchair-bound up the stairs or several flights of stairs?
Yes, it's something that we offer. NYCHA staff actually volunteer for stair climber service. It's not part of their job description, but it's something that we understand is an important service. So we encourage volunteers and we train the volunteers to use the stair climbers in order to provide this service to our residents.
Okay. What's the status of the Senior Resident Advisor Program?
Senior Resident Advisor Program. I may have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. When you do, I have a couple more follow-up questions for that. So when you do, can you also let us know if SRA staff are solely in seniors-only NYCHA developments, then how many live on site, and how does an older NYCHA resident contact an SRA staffer? Do you know the status of the Senior Companion Program?
Sorry, say that again?
Do you know the status of the Senior Companion Program?
No, again, I don't believe that that's a NYCHA program. I don't know if that's something our partners at Department of Aging want to respond to.
Okay, we can bring up the Associate Commissioner and I'll have counsel swear you in and then.
Good afternoon, Associate Commissioner. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions?
Yes, I do.
You can proceed.
The Senior Companion Program is not a program of New York City Aging. Can you clarify?
Well, I'm trying to find out from you all, so I suppose we'll find the appropriate agency, but I was just asking the status of the Senior Companion Program and how many older NYCHA residents receive visits and how often.
I see. So I'm going to interpret the question to mean perhaps that you're talking about our Friendly Visiting Program, which is attached to our case management and pairs and older adults with somebody with like interest to provide companionship and intellectual engagement.
I do, sorry to interrupt. I do think it's different. This one is the Senior Resident Companion Program funded by the Corporation for National Service assigns companions through the Henry Street Settlement to conduct friendly home visits to frail and socially isolated residents in Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island. It's a program under NYCHA specifically.
I see, thank you.
But you all can get back to us on that. And I'm sorry, did you want to finish? Okay. Who oversees, well, actually, since you're here, let me just jump to you for a moment. Can you describe the ways in which NYC Aging works with NYCHA to best serve older NYCHA residents, including with regards to language access?
Sure. We work very closely with NYCHA, as we have for a long time, in many facets of our various programs. Notably, more recently, NYCHA is a member of the Cabinet for Older New Yorkers, and we work closely with them on different programs and services. For example, through the Cabinet and the Cabinet member agencies, which include NYPD, NYCHA, and New York City Aging, we're collaborating on connecting NYPD older adult liaisons with NYCHA's Safe at Home program, which I know you talked about earlier, around their caseworker personnel and communities in order to better enhance public safety for older adults who live in NYCHA residence. This includes crime prevention and social service assistance to older adults and residents with disabilities across the 20 NYCHA developments that you've been speaking about. This is a robust program to further develop our crime prevention and social service to these communities. Additionally, NYPD has designated older adult liaisons for each of the 77 NYPD precincts and 9 police service areas. The older adult liaisons are a contact person for helping to support NYCHA residents. In terms of language access.
Sorry, just really quickly, how many developments did you say the older adult liaisons were in?
They are currently in 77 NYPD precincts and 9 police service areas, which include the NYCHA service areas.
Okay, thank you.
And you had asked about language access. Certainly,
Yes.
on our side, whether it's our community-based providers or direct services, we prioritize hiring bilingual, bicultural staff that speak and reflect the needs of the population we serve. Of course, there are so many spoken languages in New York City. Wherever there is a gap, we access the language line.
And is there active data sharing between the two agencies?
For what data?
All data regarding older adults?
We have privacy issues, so we are federally mandated to protect residents' privacy. So unless there's a specific need to share any resident data, we do not share it.
Thank you.
Right. On a case-specific issue, we would work around that, but nothing.
Okay.
No
Nothing.
disaggregated data.
Okay. In 2011, NYC Aging, together with NYCHA, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and the CUNY School of Public Health at Hunter College, published Health of Older Adults in New York City Public Housing, which contained findings from the NYCHA Senior Survey. Do you know the current status of the NYCHA Senior Survey?
We're not currently conducting any survey of our seniors.
So this is not like a regular, sorry, can the Sergeant at Arms just give them a few copies of these for me? Oh, it's just the one copy? Okay, it's just one copy, but you can have it.
Thank
Share
you.
it.
And I will just follow up from earlier. I learned that the resident senior advisors you were asking about have been folded into the Elderly Safe at Home program. So I think some of the programs you're mentioning, which maybe date back a few years, have evolved into the newer program forms. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I think many of these programs are listed on the website, so it would just be good to know what's active versus inactive.
Sure, we'll take a look at that.
Do you know how many New Yorkers age 62 and older live in NYCHA developments?
Yes. And I think you even quoted it in your testimony. We have about 25% of NYCHA's population are seniors age 62 and over. We have that as of 11/1 over 77,000, 77,047.
047. Thanks. We always like to have you say it on the record, so I appreciate that. Do you know how many or what percentage of these older NYCHA residents live in seniors-only developments?
Yes, we have 8,130 senior-only units, of which there are, and there's 7,259 households in senior-only buildings. But I'd like to go back and double-check those numbers as I just read them.
Yeah.
We will get you that
more units than
information.
households.
Yeah, I mean, there should be some vacancies, but I want to go back and double-check.
Okay,
these
that'll
numbers.
be great. Can you describe the amenities that seniors-only NYCHA developments provide to older adult residents?
There are no amenities that come with a senior-only building other than the Elderly Safe at Home, which is not in every development, but in 20 developments. And as I mentioned, we have security, 1 8-hour security shift at our senior buildings.
So, yeah.
Is it in every senior building has 1 8-hour shift?
Yes.
It's kind of wild that there are no amenities for older adults living in seniors-only buildings or developments. Like, they don't get anything special.
That's unfortunately just not within the NYCHA budget to provide that.
Okay. Does NYCHA track population data in terms of, I mean, specific to my committee, I'm wondering, you know, we're going to have a huge increase in the older adult population over the next like 15, 20 years, and I'm wondering how closely you track that type of data to determine the needs that NYCHA might have for, well, that New Yorkers will have, and how NYCHA might be able to meet those needs.
We have all of our demographic data from our residents as part of our annual recertification process. However, we're not focused in a social services way as far as analyzing that data for social service needs. We are focused as in our role as a landlord.
Yeah, I'm not talking about social services. I'm speaking about the general population. We're going to have like a 40% increase in older adults in New York City, specifically in the next 15 years. And so I'm wondering if you are looking at as a landlord, if you're looking at your portfolio of senior-only buildings and you know, developments that would, and you're taking into consideration the increase in the older adult population and therefore a presumed increased demand for senior-only housing. Are you following any of those trends in the population? I guess is my question.
We're not doing any current population trending analysis.
Okay, thank you. Can you describe the process, including the typical timeline by which an older New Yorker may secure an apartment in a seniors-only NYCHA development?
Our senior-only development, just like any development at NYCHA, is subject to our waitlist and waitlist requirements from HUD, including our transfer requirements. As you're probably aware, we have a tremendous waitlist for apartments, so I can't give you the time frame of right now of what the waitlist or time frame is for our senior buildings.
Do you have a sense of how this process compares between a current NYCHA resident and non-NYCHA residents?
No, I do not have for a transfer versus an incoming applicant. I don't have that information today, but we can send that to you.
How does the wait list compare for seniors only versus non-seniors?
I'm sorry, I was not prepared with any wait list data today, but we can get that to you.
Okay. What would qualify an older New Yorker to be fast-tracked for an apartment in a seniors-only NYCHA development?
Can you define fast-tracked?
For example, with domestic violence, folks experiencing domestic violence issues at home, there's a separate, wait list, or they're usually fast-tracked and to get housing. So is there any qualification?
So we have transfer preference categories. I would caution against using any term like fast-tracked, as our transfer priorities are heavily regulated, and our transfer process is subject to a court decree. So the emergency transfer is a separate priority within our transfer priorities. But as is well documented through this hearing and others, we do have a very long wait list and a long turnover time for our units. So they are, unfortunately, the domestic violence cases are part of that transfer list priority process.
Understood. How are older New Yorkers made aware of the existence of seniors-only NYCHA developments? And I guess given the wait list, are you doing any active outreach?
We are not doing any active outreach.
How does the older NYCHA resident population compare to New York City's older adult population at large? I don't know if either of you may be able to answer that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
How does the older NYCHA resident population compared to New York City's older adult population at large? Are they, are older adults in NYCHA developments, for example, do they tend to be lower income? Do they tend to be, have more chronic illnesses? I don't know, I know you probably don't track.
Right, I don't have that specific data in front of me, and we could certainly get back to you. Obviously they need to meet the thresholds and criteria for NYCHA eligibility, which would relate to some income insecurity. And we could get back with the NYCHA clients that are known to us.
Okay. Do you have, and this is probably more so for NYCHA, but do you have the demographic breakdown for older New Yorkers living in NYCHA developments by age, gender, race or ethnicity, disability status? Do you know how many NYCHA residents live alone and how many are homebound?
We have some of that data, and we're happy to provide that with you on an aggregate level.
Okay, thank you. Can you describe any challenges and concerns that older New Yorkers have while living in NYCHA developments? Maybe from your perspective, if you're hearing from anybody that lives in NYCHA developments, and anything that you all maybe may have been made aware of?
So, clearly we all know about health disparities that are related to income, and certainly we've worked broadly to support NYCHA residents around some of the safety and security issues that have been discussed here. Of course, we deal with all older adult issues on a case-by-case basis, so we're not bifurcating our service like around NYCHA versus not, recognizing that the large number of older adults we serve are diverse and have diverse, complex needs. So we would be responsive based on that. And I think it's important to mention again our collaboration in the New York City and the Cabinet for older New Yorkers, and the opportunities that we have there to level set around community needs and align to have a synchronized, supportive approach to addressing the needs of those residents.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's a helpful summary.
Okay. In what ways does NYC Aging or NYCHA work to address the challenges and concerns of older adults?
Again, I'm really sorry to be repetitive, but I'm going to come back to the Cabinet. As mentioned earlier, our collaboration around Safe at Home, our collaborative focus on safety and security, both together and in concert with the NYPD, including the creation of the older liaison role to best support and address the needs. Also, we're focused on the projects that we have in flight today, but the Cabinet is always iterating and there are different phases. So while today we're focused on community safety and some of the things I briefly mentioned earlier, we'll continue to evolve our work together based on the needs that we're seeing in the community.
Thank you. And how are older NYCHA residents advised to request repairs or make complaints related to their apartment and development? Anything outside of the usual CCC?
There's no specific instructions for older adults. We do our typical outreach on our repair order process, and older adults are no different in some ways, and so they're just part of our regular outreach efforts.
I can probably anticipate your answers for this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How will PEGs exacerbate older NYCHA resident challenges or impact their concerns?
I defer to Aging. NYCHA is not part of the city expense budget PEG in that way.
Thank you.
While we still work out the details of the budget, our priority is to maintain continuity of services for older adults. And under this administration, we've made historic changes and investments in older adults, which I'm sure you're aware of. And as we've discussed today, despite the very real fiscal and financial challenges, we're working with our partners to continue to evolve our work and commitment to public safety. And also want to say, as I'm sure you are familiar, we've warned for many months that New York City is facing a fiscal crisis and that federal COVID-19 stimulus funding is drying up, revenue growth is slowing, and the cost of humanitarian and asylum seeker crisis continues to skyrocket. Well, we've made clear that without timely and significant action from our federal and state partners, we would be forced to make some tough choices. To balance the budget as required by law, every agency found savings with minimal disruptions to services and no tax increases. As we have made these choices, the well-being of older New Yorkers is always our top priority.
Thank you. That was a good statement. I, beg to differ on the specific point about minimal disruption to services, but that's for another hearing on another day. Who oversees public safety for NYCHA's seniors-only buildings and developments?
Our Office of Safety and Security and Property Management both partner to oversee public safety and security in the senior buildings.
Okay.
And in all buildings.
Thank you. All right, I have only 3 questions left, but one is extremely long. So, over the summer, it was reported in Politico that NYCHA threatened to evict tenants who received free air conditioners through the Get Cool NYC program, which provided thousands of NYCHA residents with free AC units and financial assistance on utility bills, unless tenants agreed to start paying monthly utility costs or asked to have the units removed. NYCHA installed about 16,000 air conditioners under this program. According to the Journal of Urban Health, older adults who participated in the Get Cool NYC program were less likely to report feeling sick from the heat compared to those who didn't participate, and were more likely than their peers to be able to stay home on hot days. More than 60% of air conditioner recipients said the cost of the unit itself was prohibitive and why they had not previously obtained an AC unit. How many NYCHA residents received air conditioners through the Get Cool NYC program?
Thank you for that question. I want to clarify, NYCHA's mission is to keep people housed. We did not send out eviction notices to residents. We sent out a notice to residents informing them of the process to enter into an appliance agreement, and failure to enter into an appliance agreement is something that is a lease enforcement action. However, we did not attempt to evict any residents over the summer, and we did extend the timeline for the Get Cool program to the end of October. I'll have to get back to you on the exact number of residents. I know you said 16,000. I think it was closer to 14,000, but we'll get that number for you, as well as the number of residents who chose to start paying the $8 a month appliance fee versus asked to have the air conditioner removed and given back. That is, all residents that do not pay utility bills do have to enter into an appliance agreement for air conditioners. So we were just seeking to have parity between the Get Cool residents and all of our residents that have air conditioners in their home.
Respectfully, I would say that there's an indirect, implication of eviction or penalty if you're requiring people to enter into an appliance agreement, that then they would, the appliance agreement could then, cause eviction or cause them to be evicted, even though you're not directly evicting them. So I just want to sort of make that clarification, that indirect eviction is still eviction. Okay, hold on. You answered a couple of my questions, so give me a second here. In June, NYCHA spokesperson Michael Horgan said that coverage of tenants' utility costs would end on October 1st. Did this coverage, in fact, end on October 1st?
Yes, it did.
How much would it have cost?
I will double check. I believe it was November 1st,
Okay.
but it did end.
And how much would it have cost for NYCHA to absorb the energy costs of AC units provided through Get Cool NYC?
I will get back to you with that number.
And sorry, did you say how many NYCHA residents forfeited their AC units as a result of the subsidy ending?
No, I don't have that number with me today, but we will get you the full breakdown for the Get Cool program.
Okay. What steps is NYCHA taking to ensure that its residents are safe from heat waves and the temperature effects of climate change?
So I think the major effort we have in that area is our kind of what's called Clean Heat for All challenge, as it's known publicly, where we are working to push the private industry to develop products that are energy efficient and provide heating and cooling technology. We currently have an ongoing effort to do that and have committed to buy 30,000 of those units once we work through a pilot process where different manufacturers demonstrate that they can meet our specifications. And if that's successful and we're able to roll out those units across a number of developments, that's a model whereby we can provide more reliable heating as well as cooling to be able to address some of those challenges that are coming with climate change.
Thank you. Okay, that was my one very long question, so now I have two others. Please describe plans for the construction of new seniors-only NYCHA developments.
We have no plans for new construction at this time.
Okay, despite that, can you describe what is taken into consideration for the siting of such construction when you are doing the construction?
NYCHA is not doing any new construction at this time.
But you have in the past, right?
No,
Right, I guess-
NYCHA does not do any construction. We do partner with HPD to facilitate affordable housing development on our sites, and that's through our partnership with HPD.
So do you know what's taken into consideration for the siting of that construction? Because it's on your property.
I think we can follow up and provide that information. There is a process to look at the community's needs around affordable housing and any other specific purpose of those projects that we work through, and we can follow up with information on that.
Okay, thank you. And then can you describe how older NYCHA residents, especially those who are homebound, are accounted for during an emergency? Following Hurricane Sandy, for example, flooding and electrical outages stranded a number of older NYCHA residents in their apartments, which is what Chair Aviles was referring to earlier, which created dire conditions for those who required prescription refills or that their prescriptions be refrigerated, as well as a need for fresh food.
Yeah, so our family partnerships division conducts wellness checks with elderly individuals, as well as any individuals that may have life-saving equipment, as long as it's reported to us. So as part of our annual review process, we do ask for that information so that we have it available in the event of an emergency, and so that we can follow up with residents in need to make sure they're getting whatever help they need during an emergency.
Great, thank you all so much.
Do you have a sense of how many disabled or mobility impaired residents you have?
We do have all that information, and we can provide that to you. And again, it's all self-reported, so we can provide what we have at this time.
Great. So we're in the home stretch here, just the last stragglers that I was like, I didn't ask, but let's go back to fire. We understand that some security guard staff also act as fire watchers. Is that correct? And how many developments have security staff?
So the companies that we work with, most of the people who are guards are both fire and security guards. Most of them are required as a prerequisite, and they have to get special certifications from the city and the state because it could be interchangeable. We have 56 developments where we have the security guards.
Oh, okay, just those senior developments
Yes.
we talked about. Okay, great. And what does can you describe what the Fire Watcher program is?
So the fire guard is supposed to be put on site if one of the fire safety apparatuses has been out for 4 hours or more, like a standpipe, a sprinkler system, or a fire panel. And essentially, the buildings that it impacts, they're supposed to be doing patrols to make sure that if a fire does occur, that they immediately notify residents and call FDNY.
Got it. So in the advent of failure of some kind of the mechanics,
Correct.
they'll take on that role.
Yes.
Got it. And I think you mentioned this. How does one qualify as a fire watcher?
They have to take a test from FDNY.
Got it. And is it fair to say that all the security guards all have the fire watcher?
That I don't know.
Okay. And how is the Fire Watcher program different from the NYCHA Fire Safety Unit?
The fire safety department essentially gets the fire guards to go. We contract that out. We have fire guards. Once we are made aware that a fire safety component has been compromised and is not functioning properly, we try to send the guard as quickly as possible, usually within a couple of hours, to the site to make sure that they stand guard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until the repair has been corrected.
So I'm so sorry. So the fire watcher is just on standby till the repair comes or till a guard comes?
So the fire guard
Yes.
is sent to the site once NYCHA is notified that a fire safety apparatus has been compromised.
Right.
So they stay on guard, it's usually in shifts of 8 hours. If it's at a community or senior center, it's when the senior center or community center is open. But if it impacts a building at NYCHA, we have usually 3 shifts of 8 hours. So there's someone constantly there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until we're able to correct the issue.
Got it. And are there additional supports needed from the city to improve any of the work of the fire safety unit? What could the city do to support that?
We'd love additional funding. That would be great if we can get more staff.
Do you hear that, Mr. Mayor? Additional funding. Thank you. In terms of now switching over to contracting, we understand that Sentinel Security is an entity that NYCHA has contracted with to perform door repairs. What is NYCHA's current relationship with Sentinel Security now?
Sentinel is not a vendor that rings a bell. I'll have to go and check on that for you.
Okay. We have here, if you could explain why in some instances, what should be a minor door repair that might cost $1,500 if performed in-house would cost $45,000 with a contractor, as was in the case of Reese Houses.
I'd have to look into that specific example at Reese. I'm not sure the specifics of that or the condition of the door.
I can't imagine any condition that would cost $45,000, but we'll talk more.
Yes.
Okay. I think, in terms of the mayor's November plan, we understand that from OMB that APEG removed $5.8 million in funding from capitally ineligible projects, generally funding that supports training of staff on how to make repairs on new capital. Will this reduction mean any loss of training for NYCHA in-house staff on how to repair things like doors?
I'd have to follow up with our finance department on that specific budget item. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think with that, I appreciate, oh, no, I always do this. I'm notorious for it. My Red Hook residents would kill me if I did not bring this up. Actually, there was a survey of NYCHA residents, I don't know how long ago, that said what was the element that made them feel most unsafe in their homes, and the number one thing was lighting. And we know that there are sheds everywhere that have been up, some for months, some for years, in various states and they can't come down because of repair issues on the building. Nevertheless, lighting continues to be a persistent issue. How is NYCHA tracking and responding to that lighting? And I will tell you, I have sent several emails about incredibly dark places in NYCHA, not in Red Hook in particular, given all the fencing that is there, that remains an issue. How is NYCHA addressing the persistent lighting issues?
So NYCHA has limited resources, as you're aware, to do major lighting projects, similar to, as we've talked about with doors and cameras, we rely on elected official funding of major lighting enhancements at our developments. If it's something that's small scale, an extra light here on a corner, something that we think we can incorporate into our property management work, we will add in a light or two. So it really varies on what the scope of the need is to correct the issue that you're talking about. As much as possible, we will try to incorporate it through our property management work, but otherwise we usually rely on capital funding to support major lighting enhancements on our campuses.
And I think, do you have any agreements with NYPD or DOT to obtain maybe additional equipment that would be needed, like those, additional
We have had in
apparatuses?
certain instances where we've been working with NYPD and we know there's certain criminal activity going on. NYPD has put in light towers for us and stationed them, to try to deter that criminal activity. So we do work closely with NYPD as needed, but I know that those light towers are very bright and very disruptive to residents as well. So
Yeah, for sure. And what's the threshold? How many calls does it take to get an additional light or two? What's the threshold do you use? Because I'm thinking in particular, in many corridors in Red Hook, it is a safety issue, 100%. It is not a perception. How many calls will it take to get?
No, I know. It's not a matter of number of calls that then when we're finally like, fine, we'll do it. And I've walked
Or
Red-
television,
I've
or
read-
television spotlights.
I've walked Red Hook with Miss Blondell, and I see all those dark spots as well. But we really do need funding in order to support major lighting improvements.
Okay. Well, I'll certainly follow up around how the safety assessment stands and guides the actual spending and the decisions that are made around what gets prioritized in terms of, this competing needs queue of needs that are greater than expenditures. Council member?
Sorry, I have one follow-up question. On July 24th of this year, Mayor Adams and DOB Commissioner Otto unveiled a plan to remove unsightly sheds and scaffolding. Do you know if NYCHA is part of that plan? I believe it's called Get Sheds Down.
Broadly, yes. We are, involved in those efforts and have had a lot of discussions with City Hall on what aspects of the plan and the different measures could be applicable in our context.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I have one other question. You all just provide such great information that we have all this follow-up. It's our understanding that the NYPD cameras use facial recognition technology. Can you confirm whether that is the case?
No, not at all. No.
They do not use facial recognition
Yeah,
technology?
I don't like to speak for the NYPD anymore, but
we'll allow you.
there's no facial recognition cameras, certainly in NYCHA.
Okay.
Yes, not on NYCHA properties, no.
Thank you.
I think with that, we will follow up on certainly all the elements that require additional follow-up, but thank you for your time and testimony and your ongoing work, and we will continue to ensure that our residents are safe and that we prioritize their health and well-being as safety is, and ensuring they have the resources that they need. So many thanks.
Thank you for your partnership.
Thank you all for your testimony today.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to public testimony. We'll start with testimony from Marianne Mullaney, who is representing the comptroller, New York City Comptroller. You may
Okay.
begin.
Okay, thank you. I need these. Okay. Thank you, Chair Aviles and Chair Hudson and members of the New York City Council Committees on Public Housing and Aging for the opportunity to testify on NYCHA's safety infrastructure. A year and a half ago, my office kicked off an engagement effort to hear directly from NYCHA residents about the most pressing issues in their developments by attending family days, hosting roundtables across the 5 boroughs, and collecting hundreds of surveys. Many residents flagged significant security concerns, including chronic issues with broken doors and locks. In response, over 100 auditors took to the field and visited every NYCHA development and checked the physical condition of doors and locks in August and September of 2022. Auditors visited 262 developments and were alarmed to find the following. 36.8% of residential building entrance doors were propped open or unlocked. 40.1% of entrance door locks were broken. 37.5% of rear or side doors were propped open or unlocked. 28.5% of rear or side door locks were broken. The results of this review in 2022 found conditions much worse than in 2018 when the comptroller's auditors undertook a similar review. Between 2018 and 2022, the number of entrance doors propped open and/or had broken locks increased dramatically from 23.5% in 2018 to 57.9% in 2022. Our 2018 report recommended that NYCHA implement the following recommendations. 1, repair or replace damaged exterior doors. 2, regularly inspect all exterior doors and maintain all doors and locks in good working order. And 3, ensure that when exterior doors are obstructed or unsecured, maintenance staff are immediately made aware. The 2022 review resulted in our auditors reissuing many of these recommendations to NYCHA. In March 2023, when NYCHA was asked by the Comptroller's Office for the status of recommendations, they reported that they implemented all of the recommendations. However, our office and other elected officials continue to hear from residents of ongoing and longstanding issues. Our 2022 field review made clear that NYCHA did not fully implement the recommendations made in 2018, and continuing complaints since the 2022 review raised concerns that the problems remain. For example, as recently as this week, we heard from a resident that most of the doors at Jefferson houses were opened, not secured, and the intercom did not work. We stress that NYCHA must urgently and consistently follow through in implementing these recommendations. While we understand NYCHA's dire financial straits, our office voices our concerns that repairs are not adequately done even when funding is allocated. We also understand the issues extend beyond the doors themselves. Residents inform us that doors are often propped open because replacement keys are too expensive, and we urge NYCHA to make replacements more accessible. However, these worsening results overall do not represent one-off challenges, but a deeper culture of improper maintenance without quality assurance mechanisms. We urge NYCHA to listen to the voices of many residents who share the impacts of these security issues have on their daily lives and what it means to live without a sense of security in their own homes. Thank you for your consideration, and our office welcomes any questions or elaboration on our recent field review.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for your patience in sitting through the hearing. I was curious around if you were able to look at any of if there were any distinctions between contracting and in-house capacity and any financial implications.
We did not cover that. This was really point-in-time observations of the conditions, so really just site observations and not a full audit of the security.
No, that's fair. And I will say that we heard in testimony today that and in response to the controller's report, that those items were cured, and we know for a fact that they are not. So there is a clear discrepancy and inexperience around what is happening and how that is getting monitored. So I thank the Controller's Office for this work, and we'll continue to push to get these repairs and improved management. And thank you in particular around the replacement, the accessibility of replacement keys, and even so far as even mailbox keys in some developments have been difficult for residents to obtain.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your partnership.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next in-person witness will be Isaiah Thompson. With that, we'll move on to Zoom testimony. For those wishing to testify on Zoom, you'll again be prompted to unmute yourself, and once you're unmuted, you should be able to just begin.
At this time, I'm going to call Arena Garcia. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Daria, it's me. Daria.
We can hear you.
Time has begun. All right. I'm a little nervous, but my concern is about 7 years ago, I put in several tickets with housing. Then they had informed me that they couldn't take care of the tickets because of the COVID, and that was quite understandable. But once everything was established and things opened up, I contacted them, and still nothing was done. I'm referring to tickets like for tiles, painting. Now I'm in the, and the project's already like 15 years, and never once have I ever bothered anybody regarding anything. Finally, after several attempts for my tile, they came to the home, and the guy says to us, after he did a test, "Oh, you got asbestos? You have to move out of this apartment immediately. You cannot stay here. It's no good." Now, I had my leg amputated, so I'm in a wheelchair. I have a daughter that is, she's mildly retarded, but she's bedbound. She doesn't walk or talk or nothing. So, we don't have no men in our lives that can help us. So, I am doing what housing says, put in your tickets. When I informed the housing office that I have asbestos, and the guy that checked this said we have to leave the apartment, my worker, Miss Cabo, he says, "Oh yes, we're gonna send you to a hotel. Are you ready to leave?" I told her yes. This was 7 months ago. Nobody did nothing. I reached out again. He said, no, we're gonna get you the house, the hotel. Deal. Nothing. Then she says that a hotel cannot accommodate me and my family. So I said, well, put us in another apartment.
Time has expired.
I'm still waiting. Thank you for your time.
Can you state your name for the record?
Rainer Garcia.
And what development are you in, Arena?
Brookline in Canarsie.
Is there a way to get a contact information for Ms. Garcia? Okay. Ms. Garcia, we will follow up with you. We thank you for your testimony, and I am so sorry that you have had this experience and you're still going through it. Thank you for your courage and your testimony and your patience in being here. We will follow up with you, Ms. Garcia. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be moving on to Jean Serviola. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Time has begun.
Okay, Jean is no longer available. Moving on to Rohan Lala. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Can I start?
Time has begun.
All right. Hello, my name is Rohan Lala, and I'm a case manager with University Settlement Project Home, a nonprofit organization that offers anti-eviction and homelessness prevention services and housing counseling to low-income residents. Our organization works with countless NYCHA residents living in Manhattan and Brooklyn who are struggling with housing issues such as rental disputes and arrears, lack of safety, lack of repairs, and safety and infrastructural problems. I'm addressing this body today to request that NYCHA take urgent action to improve its physical conditions which threaten its residents' safety daily. We primarily work in the Lower East Side, Fort Greene, and East New York. NYCHA residents across these neighborhoods are concerned with the state and upkeep of their buildings. The lights in the hallways flicker, the elevators are often broken down, entrance doors don't lock to keep trespassers out. These conditions gravely imperil tenants, especially those who are elderly and disabled. NYCHA, unfortunately, has proven to be unresponsive and understaffed with regard to repairs and tenant complaints, a situation that should be blamed both on underfunding and mismanagement. Not only do the state of public and shared spaces in NYCHA make tenants unsafe, so do the conditions in NYCHA's individual units. My colleagues and I have seen NYCHA drag its feet on repairs that threaten health and safety. I have personally interacted with NYCHA residents who live with severe health hazards in their apartments daily. One of my clients who testified today, Ms. Garcia, a disabled amputee residing with her 2 daughters, who are both disabled as well, lives in Bruckellen houses in East New York. She's been living in a unit that tested positive for toxic levels of asbestos in September. NYCHA has continually delayed the scheduled repairs and apartment transfers for this family. Another family in Vladeck houses in the Lower East Side, 2 elderly retirees, have had severe mold issues in their apartments since September. Again, no action besides inspections have been taken. Photos show the entire ceiling covered in mold, garbage piles right outside of the couple's window, and a severe leak with rancid water leaking through the door. NYCHA has failed to do root cause repairs, forcing the couple to move out of the unit and live with their daughter while still paying rent to the housing authority. These are anecdotal cases that I've witnessed and advocated for. Aggregated data and details a larger systemic problem. The Ombudsperson Call Center, OCC, a court-appointed group formed to assist residents for leak and mold complaints that were not being adequately addressed or resolved by NYCHA, has participated in 67,000 calls with NYCHA residents since 2019. Between 2022 and 2023, the OCC averaged 234 new mold and leak complaints per
Time has
month.
expired.
Can I finish my sentence? 50% of which were classified as severe conditions.
Do you have remaining testimony? Would you like to
Yes.
complete it? Feel free.
Yes. The average days to resolve a resident reported complaints to the OCC, again, 50% of which were severe conditions, ranged from 168 days to 224 days. This was caused by recurrence failures or inability to meet scheduled appointments and craftsmanship, where NYCHA contractors and vendors failed to conduct root cause repairs, making it so that tickets had to be reopened. NYCHA residents are among the most vulnerable populations in New York City. The majority of our clients are from low-income minority tenants who receive public benefits. They form the constituency of many of the electeds sitting on this committee, and they deserve better than what they are being given right now. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Valha. I hope you will be submitting your testimony electronically. Thank you for your advocacy on behalf of tenants. We continue to see this persistence, combination of funding and mismanagement, and we hope to follow up with Ms. Garcia and potentially with your other client. So thank you so much.
So we'll now go to Isaiah Thompson.
Good afternoon. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Isaiah Thompson. I'm Senior Policy Analyst at Community Service Society for New York. So every year we do a survey of New Yorkers with a sort of emphasis on the issues that affect low-income New Yorkers. Last year we carried out the survey, and we found that in 2022, more than half of NYCHA residents said that properly working exterior door locks, intercoms, and buzzers were a concern. We compared this across various housing types, found that access to a safe and secure dwelling is a strictly public housing issue in New York. Public housing residents were 2.5 times more likely than rent-regulated households to have issues with exterior doors, more than 4 times more likely than market-rate households, and 12 times more likely than homeowners. So this data matches with the on-the-ground reality that we've seen. In the past year, I've visited public housing developments in the Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, and Brooklyn, and have consistently found doors ajar, broken, and in disrepair. I've attended multiple resident association meetings where residents describe a situation where NYCHA spends money on new doors, only to have outsiders break them so they no longer close. This occurs again and again across the city, and in none of these cases were more modern, resilient doors installed, despite the fact that residents had complained about poor quality and deficiencies with contractors used in the past. While it's disconcerting to see, we can understand that the modernization of heating and replacing old pipes and roofs are really capital-intensive fixes that we continue to call for more funding for, but it's beyond our understanding why basic provision of the protected entryway and exitway can't be maintained for public housing residents. And thank you again for this opportunity for us to share what we learned. And we will do the survey again this year, and hopefully this attention that'll show different results. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isaiah. Thank you for your work. And I think like with the comptroller, it kind of defies logic and understanding to hear that all these issues were addressed, that were pointed out, and yet the reality is you probably can step onto any NYCHA campus and find broken doors and doors ajar. So there is an enormous amount of work to be done, and thank you for your partnership.
Thank you.
We'll ask one more time if there's anyone on Zoom that wishes to testify. Please indicate by using the raise hand function. If there's anyone in person that would like to testify, please indicate by coming up to the dais or coming up to the table in front or approaching the sergeants. Otherwise, seeing there or no will end public testimony.
Great. So in closing, throughout this hearing, we once again have heard how budget shortfalls have led to poor conditions for public housing residents. And NYCHA, despite the trend of disinvestment, has also made some strides in improvement. And while I applaud these measures, it is clear that NYCHA still has a long way to go to improving the management structure that continues to put residents in harm's way. Safety and security is a basic human right, and our NYCHA residents are left to suffer the indignities of multiple systemic failures, and we as leaders and agency employees must step up for them. I encourage NYCHA to take a hard look at the recommendations made by the Federal Monitor and other agencies, the realities pointed out by countless number of residents and advocates, and consider what was said in this room today, and take a second look at how it might begin to improve the safety conditions for our residents in earnest, and in particular, our most treasured assets, our seniors. We thank you. And with that, would you like to say something? Okay, and with that, I will close today's hearing.